Hello everyone, welcome to another Iceberg. Today, I'll be taking another look at the Jurassic Park Iceberg that I made a few years ago, as I got some things wrong and didn't go into enough detail about some entries. Also, I'll be adding a bunch of new entries, so that's pretty epic. If you like the video, remember to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. I've even got channel memberships now, which include early videos, so if you're into that, you can check that out. I've also got plenty of other icebergs already made, like ones based on Marvel, DC, Terminator, Star Wars, Alien and Predator, Indiana Jones, Godzilla, Mass Effect, etc. So check those out if you're interested. With all that being said, let's begin. Also, I'm gonna mispronounce some dinosaur names. I'm gonna try my hardest. God knows I'm gonna try my hardest, but it's gonna happen. So, brace for that. The original Jurassic Park 3. So Jurassic Park 3 had a very troubled production. So troubled, in fact, that 5 weeks before filming began, they rewrote the entire film. The plot, the characters, the sets, the animatronics, everything was reworked to an extent. This original version of the film would have started with a US State Department official investigating dinosaur attacks on the mainland. He would try to get Dr. Grant to help him, but before Grant could agree, a rich dude who wanted to explore Isla Sorna would convince Grant to be their tour guide on the island, in exchange for a huge donation to his raptor research program that he wanted to set up on the island. Dr. Grant, Billy, and the rich dude's family would then crash land on the island, and your standard Jurassic Park stuff would happen. While this was all going on, the film would occasionally cut back to the US State Department official who would be trying to get US jurisdiction over Isla Sorna. The film would end with Isla Sorna being firebombed, and Dr. Grant would refuse to leave the island, running into the jungle and, I guess presumably being napalmed to death. So why was this version of the script thrown out 5 weeks before filming? Well, it's because director Joe Johnston believed that the story was too complicated, and he believed that Dr. Grant would never travel to a dinosaur-filled island again, at least willingly, so they started filming with an unfinished script. Even while JP3 was being filmed, the script continued to change, with William H. Macy, the actor who played Jack Kirby, saying in an interview, quote, "The script has been evolving and being rewritten as we go, and what you want to say is, who launched a $100 million ship without a rudder, and who's getting fired for this? But that's the way it goes. That's the way they make these movies. I think someone should be shot, but I'm not in charge." Also, originally, the film's main antagonist was going to be a baryonyx. This was later changed, though, due to the baryonyx not being remotely as big as the T-Rex. So it was replaced with the Spinosaurus. The Spinosaurus controversy. When Jurassic Park 3 came out, fans were extremely angry that the Spinosaurus was able to kill the T-Rex. This little controversy has since become one of the most talked about topics in the entire franchise, due to some fans still being angry about it over 20 years later. This controversy is seemingly why the Spinosaurus didn't return in any of the films until Rebirth. It's also the reason why Rexy smashes through a Spinosaurus skeleton in Jurassic World, as an apology of sorts for the fight in JP3. Now, I grew up with Jurassic Park 3, well, all of the Jurassic Park films, well, the original 3, and I love the Spinosaurus, so I never really cared about this controversy, but, there are definitely those that still do. Jurassic Park Trespasser. Jurassic Park Trespasser is one of the most famous Jurassic Park video games. Released in October of 1998 and developed by DreamWorks Interactive, Trespasser was an extremely ambitious first-person shooter taking place a year after the Lost World at Jurassic Park. The story is about a woman named Anne crash landing on Isla Sorna and having to survive against a bunch of dinosaurs from the films, like T-Rexes, Velociraptors, Triceratopses, and even a non-movie dinosaur, Albertosaurus. The game has no difficulty settings or time limits. This was the result of the game being developed with the idea of it being an extremely realistic video game. This also means that there's no crosshairs for any of the guns, so it's very hard to actually fight anything in the game. There's also no traditional health bar. Instead, your health is tracked by looking down at your character's boobs to see a heart tattoo. Very strange choice. The game also wasn't finished. Yeah, the game was rushed out of the door in 1998, despite the development team saying that they needed at least one more year of development for the game to be ready for release. But because of some business deals, they were forced to release the game in an unfinished state. Because it's unfinished, the game is infamous for being very broken and at times borderline unplayable. Luckily, Jurassic Park fans have created unofficial patches and mods to fix the game. Novel differences. So with adapting anything from a book to a comic to a video game, you're gonna have to scrap some things or change some things. And for the first two Jurassic Park films, yeah, they changed a lot. From entire sequences, like the river raft scene from the first novel, to the camouflaged Carnotauruses stalking around in the second novel, there's so much that was cut. So in the interest of time, I'll only be rapid-firing off some of the major changes. As most people know by now, in the novels, John Hammond is a very bad person, not caring about his grandkids potentially dying, and worse, he's rude. He also dies in the novel by being devoured by a pack of compies. This only happens because his grandkids play a T-Rex roar over the PA system, which makes him panic, fall, and break his ankle. So, yeah, his grandkids are actually responsible for his death, which is, actually pretty messed up, but it's nowhere near the most messed up thing in the book. That's probably the baby. Yeah, there's a baby that gets eaten alive in this book. Speaking of Lex and Tim, their personalities were swapped for the film. Grant also doesn't hate children in the novel, and Ian Malcolm dies in the book. Well, he dies, but then it's revealed that he didn't actually die in the second novel. There's also a part in the book in which the characters have to get a boat to return to the island because it has raptors on board, and, you know, they don't really want raptors on the mainland. Also, the sequence at the beginning of the Lost World film is actually the beginning of the first book. Henry Wu is also a main character in the first book, instead of just being a one-scene character like in the film. As for the second novel, the book is about Ian Malcolm and company traveling to Isla Sorna to find Richard Levine, a rich toy inventor. He's a main character in the novel, but he doesn't show up in any of the films. There's also the character Jack Thorne, who also doesn't show up in the film. There's also Kelly and Arby, who are two stowaways looking for their teacher. Just like the last two characters, they don't appear in the film at all. And no, this Kelly is not the same Kelly as Malcolm's daughter. Dodson also shows up in the second book, but on the flip side, Roland, AJ, and Ludlow aren't in the book at all. And finally, the whole San Diego sequence is not in the book at all. Minecraft. In August of 2020, a DLC for Minecraft Bedrock Edition was released that crossed Jurassic Park with Minecraft. The DLC featured a map that recreates Jurassic World, and players can explore the map while also making sure that it doesn't get out of control. as during the day, the park will have some problems, ranging from power problems to sometimes even severe weather. Your job is to make sure that the park doesn't shut down. The DLC also includes 28 prehistoric creatures and hybrids, along with various characters from both the original film and Jurassic World. In February of 2024, another Jurassic Park-related Minecraft DLC was released. Based on the Universal Studios theme park, there's attractions in the DLC based on Jurassic Park and World that you can experience, including a river raft ride similar to the real-life Jurassic Park ride. The Line Scene Contingency. This was InGen's failed attempt at keeping the dinosaurs from surviving if they would escape the park. Basically, Dr. Wu altered the dinosaur DNA and removed their ability to produce the amino acid lysine. This forced the dinosaurs to depend on lysine supplements the park's vet staff would give them. So if the dinosaurs escaped, they would eventually die because they didn't have any lysine. InGen was so sure that this would work, but it turns out that the dinosaurs don't actually need the supplements, because the herbivores just naturally eat lysine-rich food, while the carnivores get lysine from eating the herbivores. While this topic isn't really brought up in the films, minus a deleted scene, it plays a crucial role in the Telltale game, and as a gameplay mechanic in Operation Genesis. The mechanic being that if dinosaurs escape their enclosure, after some time, they'll just die. Original action figures. So Jurassic Park has its fair share of toys, but the original toys created for the franchise were a bit out there. Created by Kenner, the figures for the first film are famous for being a little bit wacky. Take, for example, Nedry, who, as we all know, looked like this in the film. How about Dr. Grant in his iconic double boa launcher? Or how about Tim and his retracting snare? But it wasn't just the characters from the films and the dinosaurs that Kenner made toys of. They also made toys of their own OCs. Yeah, during the second series of figures for the first film, Kenner began releasing original characters. Two of them were the evil raiders Skinner and Dr. Snare, and according to the toy's packaging, both of these dudes are dead, as Skinner got killed by a baryonyx, while Snare was eaten alive by a Carnotaurus. A lot of these toys served as inspiration for the Mattel Jurassic Park 30th Anniversary line of toys. Scientific inaccuracies. I'm gonna keep this one kinda quick, because everyone knows that the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park are not scientifically accurate. So instead of listing every inaccuracy, I'll mention all of the major ones. Or at least most of them. Also, keep in mind, some of these inaccuracies were accurate when the films came out, only for them to be contradicted later down the line with new discoveries. As for the Velociraptor, in real life they had feathers, and were much smaller. As for the T-Rex, in real life they could obviously see things if they stood still. They actually had incredibly good eyesight. As for the JP3 Spinosaurus, pretty much everything. It had a long skull and could swim, but everything else is, kind of outdated. As for the Mosasaurus, the mosasaur in the film is actually twice the size of a real mosasaur. As for the Triceratops, in real life, it had square and blocky teeth that allowed them to chew, so the whole swallowing gizzard stones thing isn't real. As for the Pyroraptor, in real life, the Pyroraptor couldn't swim in freezing water. I don't really think any dinosaur could. As for Dilophosaurus, in real life, it didn't have any venom or a neck fan, and it was also much taller. As for Gallimimus, in real life, it had feathers. As for Quetzalcoatlus, while also huge in real life, It was nowhere near as big as it is in the film. As for the Giganotosaurus, in real life, it could never have fought a T-Rex, as it existed millions of years before T-Rex, and was also native to modern-day South America, not North America. As for the Oviraptor, it's shown in the prologue eating eggs, despite this being a myth. The fossil where this theory comes from was most likely an Oviraptor sitting on its nest, not eating the eggs. And finally, a lot of the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park are shrink-wrapped, meaning that you can see their bones, when in real life they wouldn't be noticeable. Basically, they put skin over the bones and forgot to put the muscles. Jurassic World Alive. Jurassic World Alive is a smartphone game released in May of 2018 that makes use of augmented reality technology. You travel around the real world capturing dinosaurs and other prehistoric creatures. You can also create hybrid dinosaurs, take part in strike events, and battle other players. There's even a monthly subscription service called VIP that costs $10 a month. Yeah, it's basically a Pokemon Go clone, much like Ghostbusters World and the ever-iconic Garfield Go. Surprisingly, the game is still active to this day, and is still getting updates. The high heels scene. In Jurassic World, we see Claire luring Rexy over to the Indominus Rex while running in high heels. This scene has been widely mocked online for being ridiculous, with many claiming for it to be impossible. However, Bryce Dallas Howard herself has defended this scene, stating, quote, "There was a point where we had to decide. I remember that day when I said, I'm gonna keep these shoes on, please. I always saw it as a really fun thing that she runs through the jungle in heels, and the outfit gets totally demolished. She was even offered 2 other options, to go barefoot, Tarantino style, or chop off the heels like in Romancing the Stone. She declined both of these options, with the second option being declined because she didn't want to copy that film. Not only did she like wearing them, but she defended them from a plot perspective, saying, quote, "It was originally written for me to wear sneakers, and I was like, no, I am gonna wear heels. That's what I'm gonna do." It felt like it completed the journey. Deleted scenes. Like with all films, not every scene makes the cut. So here are some deleted scenes from the first 6 Jurassic Park films. As for Jurassic Park, the Triceratops being sick scene was originally going to have some resolution, as Grant, Ellie, and Tim discover that the dinosaur had been eating poisonous berries next to some gizzard stones. Around the same time as this scene, there was supposed to be a baby Triceratops that would appear who would bother Lex. The animatronic created for this scene would later be used in The Lost World a few years later. Originally, Ian Malcolm was going to run away in the film instead of distracting Rexy. This scene was going to be filmed, but Jeff Goldblum was able to convince Spielberg to change it. The river sequence from the novel, in which Grant, Lex, and Tim go on a raft through a river while being chased by the T-Rex, was scrapped because it would be far too expensive to film. There was also supposed to be a scene in which John Hammond would shoot the raptors at the end of the film in order to save the rest of the cast. And finally, there was supposed to be a scene in which Muldoon would explain to Ellie what the lysine contingency was. As for The Lost World Jurassic Park, a scene where Ludlow is in a boardroom meeting describing the money owed for the deaths of John Arnold, Muldoon, and Donald Gennaro was scrapped. There was supposed to be a scene in which Ludlow, while drunk, would fall onto the infant T-Rex, which is how the baby would break its leg. A scene in which Roland and AJ meet up and discuss their frustrations with endangered species protection bills was scrapped. This scene is where Roland would decide to go to Isla Sorna to hunt the T-Rex. A scene where the T-Rex smashes its head through a family's home in San Diego was scrapped. And finally, there was a scene where after escaping the velociraptors in the long grass, many different hunters would then use hang gliders and helicopters to escape, only to then get mauled in the air by pteranodons. This is actually where AJ was going to die. As for Jurassic Park 3, the opening of the film was completely changed. It was originally going to feature paleontologists in Egypt uncovering a Spinosaurus tooth. The T-Rex and Spinosaurus fight was originally going to be a minute longer, and included scenes where the T-Rex pushes the Spinosaurus back, and a scene where Spinosaurus smacks the T-Rex in the face with its claws. The film was originally going to end with Spinosaurus being killed by the Marines at the end of the film. There was also another death that was scrapped for the Spinosaurus, where it would get killed by the pack of raptors shortly after the boat attack. Ben's death was originally supposed to be seen via footage found on Eric's camcorder. And finally, there was supposed to be a scene in which the pteranodons would attack the helicopters at the end of the film. As for Jurassic World, a scene where Claire smears herself in dinosaur poop was scrapped. A scene where Owen and Claire hide under a log from the Indominus Rex was also scrapped. A scene where Claire and Owen encounter a Stegoceratops was scrapped, which would reveal that Dr. Wu was making more hybrids in secret. This was scrapped because Colin Trevorrow's son said that it would make the Indominus Rex feel less special. There was supposed to be a scene in which the Indominus Rex destroys a T-Rex animatronic. This was scrapped because Spielberg said that some people might interpret the scene as saying that CGI is better than animatronics. And finally, a scene where we see the Indominus Rex preparing to escape its enclosure by using its camouflage was scrapped. As for Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom, a scene where Owen and the hunters discover a giant Stegosaurus carcass was scrapped. There was supposed to be a scene where the Indoraptor would be shown playing with a human skull in its cage. Several lines from Ian Malcolm were cut from the film and can still be heard in trailers and other behind-the-scenes material. A scene showing the Mosasaurus hunting a whale pod was cut. After a whaling ship harpoons one of the whales, the mosasaur would grab hold of the whale and drag the boat under. Iris was going to be shown killed by the Indoraptor, but because this was scrapped, it can be assumed that she survives the film. A scene where Zia is revealed to be gay was cut from the film. She would have mentioned being gay, but also say that she would make an exception for Owen. Very weird line, but alright. And finally, an alternate take on the Indoraptor killing the guards was scrapped, despite it appearing in trailers. And finally, as for Jurassic World Dominion, the entire prologue of the film was scrapped, and later released as a standalone short, only to then be re-added back into the film via the extended edition. The scene took place primarily in the Cretaceous period, and set up the rivalry between Rexy and the Giganotosaurus, before jumping forward in time to show Rexy causing mayhem at a drive-in movie theater. The Oviraptor was supposed to appear in the dinosaur fighting pit scene in the film, but was scrapped. Crothers was supposed to return in the film, but due to travel restrictions caused by the pandemic, he had to be scrapped from the film, and was replaced with Franklin. And finally, during the Giganotosaurus attack, it was supposed to eat the locust kept by Ellie, causing her to have to rip off the leg of a dead locust nearby in order to replace the sample. Canon redesigns. It doesn't happen a lot, but there have been times in which a dinosaur receives a redesign between films or games. Usually it's a really small change, but sometimes it's pretty massive. The three biggest examples of this are the Allosaurus, Spinosaurus, and the Gigantosaurus. In Jurassic World Rebirth, the Spinosauruses featured in the film have more paleo-accurate designs, while the Gigantosaurus from Dominion has the opposites. Its first semi-canon appearance was in Jurassic World Evolution, where it looked like this. However, in Dominion, it was changed to look a lot more menacing and, Joker-like, whatever that means. A similar thing happened to the Allosaurus, who first showed up in Jurassic World Evolution as well, before making appearances in Fallen Kingdom, Battle at Big Rock, and Dominion. Now, I guess I shouldn't call these designs redesigns, because most of these appearances are actually canon, and have explanations. And that's simply the fact that Dr. Wu and InGen made Spinosaurus and Allosaurus scarier, so the Jurassic World Rebirth Spino and Evolution Allosaurus is actually what they really looked like in-universe before being cloned for Jurassic Park. The Gigantosaurus, on the other hand, well, it looks like this in the prologue, so I guess the evolution design is now non-canon. The Masrani Corporation website. An in-universe viral marketing website for the Masrani Global Corporation was created in 2015 in order to promote Jurassic World. It featured various pieces of lore and was strangely up for years, finally being shut down sometime in either late 2024 or early 2025. The most interesting thing about this website is that if you entered the password Indominus into a terminal, you'd be given access to private logs and other secret lore stuff. The website is most well known in the fanbase for being created by Timothy Glover and Jack Anthony Ewens, who made a fan-made in-universe website for Jurassic Park in 2014. Their work was noticed by Universal, who then hired them to create an official in-universe website, that being the Masrani Corporation website. Dinosaur sightings. In promotion for Jurassic World Dominion, Universal released found footage and news report-style videos on Twitter and other social medias that depicted dinosaurs living in our world. There was even a website created for these dino sightings that hosts most of these videos. Many of these videos are just like a guy walking in on a dinosaur, eating or sleeping or, doing whatever. But sometimes they can get a bit crazy. For example, there's this one Snapchat-style video where a guy is being stalked by a baryonyx, and only narrowly avoids being eaten. Then there's one where an entire community is like 10 feet away from a sleeping baryonyx hogging a pool. And probably the most popular videos are the ones that feature the Jurassic Park 3 versions of the Velociraptors. While originally created to be canon, with some of these videos even briefly appearing in Dominion, it seems that a lot of these videos, mainly the JP3 Raptor videos, are not actually considered canon anymore. Jurassic Park Survival. Being developed by Savage Entertainment, Jurassic Park Survival, or Jurassic Park X as it would have been called on the Xbox for some reason, was a movie tie-in game for Jurassic Park 3. Story-wise, you'd play as a dude named David Vaughn, trapped on Isla Sorna after being sent out by the US government to research the dinosaurs' behavior and population. However, a rival organization would launch a full-scale attack and kill all of your allies, leaving you alone on the island with both enemy soldiers and a ton of dinosaurs, ranging from T-Rex, Spinosaurus, the Compies, and Kylosaurus, Velociraptors, Dilophosaurus, and Troodons. This would be an open-world-like game where you'd have to find and rescue surviving members of your team while traveling through forests, swamps, hatcheries, campsites, underground cave networks, and abandoned outposts. While a movie tie-in game, it would have nothing to do with Jurassic Park 3's plot, and was basically doing its own thing. Gameplay-wise, it was going to play a lot like the classic Tomb Raider games, meaning a lot of third-person shooting and puzzle solving. While you might think that the large theropods, or the enemy soldiers, would be the most dangerous enemies, in actuality, the velociraptors would have probably been the biggest threat in the game, as they would attempt to lure the player into traps, and could also call in other velociraptors for help. So, what went wrong? Well, Universal wasn't super happy with the game's progress, and so took Savage Entertainment off the game. Though they didn't cancel the game, they simply delayed it, but they were never able to find another developer, so the game was eventually cancelled. And no, this game has nothing to do with the Jurassic Park survival game being developed by Saber Interactive. Hurricane Iniki. There were two different states that the original Jurassic Park was filmed in, California and Hawaii. As you'd probably guess, most of the outdoor scenes of Isla Nublar were filmed in Hawaii. However, the decision to film in Hawaii had some consequences that nobody could have predicted. During the last day of shooting on the island of Kauai, a Category 4 hurricane known as Hurricane Iniki smashed into the island. This was a freak storm of sorts, as it's the only major hurricane to ever hit the state, and resulted in 7 deaths and $3.1 billion in damages. Spielberg and the crew retreated to their hotel during the hurricane, where they bunkered down. Well, most of them did. Spielberg had some dudes film shots of the hurricane to use in the film. After the hurricane passed, the crew were stranded on the island, but luckily for them, an old friend of Spielberg's would coincidentally show up to fly them to California. Fred Sorensen was a pilot who at the time was working with the Salvation Army to bring water, blankets, and other disaster relief supplies to the island, and it just so happened that Fred had actually met Spielberg before. In fact, he was even in one of his films. Fred played Jock, the pilot at the beginning of Raiders of the Lost Ark. While in Hawaii, he ran into Jurassic Park's producer Kathleen Kennedy, who asked him to fly the crew back to California. It was a really strange coincidence. As a fun little joke, after the hurricane, the cast and crew were given Hurricane Iniki survivor shirts. Dinosaur Protection Group website. The Dinosaur Protection Group is an in-universe, non-profit organization featured heavily in Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom. They're a group led by Claire, with the goal of saving dinosaurs from extinction and advocating for their rights as a species. As part of a viral marketing campaign for Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom, a website and Twitter account were created in 2017. The website especially was interesting, as it featured tons of new lore about the Jurassic Park franchise. For a time, the website was actually taken down because it was blocked due to a government investigation, a neat little way to kill the website in-universe. Although it's since been reactivated, so you can go explore it right now. InGen's List. This is a piece of lore featured in the first Jurassic Park film, and by extension, the first novel. Basically, it's a list of every prehistoric species that InGen could clone. In the film universe, you had creatures that we saw in the first 3 films, like Brachiosaurus, Stegosaurus, T-Rex, Velociraptor, and Ankylosaurus, along with some dinosaurs that we never actually saw in the original 3 films, like Baryonyx, Carnotaurus, Dimorphodon, Microceratus, and Suchomimus. This list would later get more species added to it once Masrani purchased InGen for Jurassic World, with additions made to it like Deinonychus, Sinoceratops, Troodon, and Mosasaurus. As for dinosaurs like Iguanodon, Moros, and Giganotosaurus, they were cloned under Biosyn, so they never were in the Masrani or InGen lists. Then we have Ceratosaurus, Spinosaurus, and Tylosaurus, which are 3 species that aren't on anybody's lists, and were cloned illegally. Except, I guess Spinosaurus actually may have been on the InGen list, because they appear in Jurassic World Rebirth, so I don't know. And finally, for the novel, its InGen list was very similar to the film's initial InGen list, but with additions like a giant dragonfly and Styracosaurus. Other hybrids. If you've seen all of the Jurassic Park films, you'll know that there are hybrid dinosaurs. Yes, I know all the dinosaurs are technically hybrids, but you know what I'm talking about. Such examples include Indominus Rex and the Indoraptor, but there's actually quite a few more hybrid dinosaurs in Jurassic Park that we only see in Jurassic World Evolution and Camp Cretaceous. First, there's the Scorpius Rex, which is made up of T-Rex, Velociraptor, Scorpionfish, Ankylosaurus, Gigantosaurus, and a bunch of other stuff. This was actually Dr. Wu's first attempt at creating hybrid dinosaurs. Then there's the Stegoceratops, which was actually seen very briefly in Jurassic World on a computer screen. It's a combination between Stegosaurus, a Triceratops, a snake, and a beetle. What kind of snake and beetle? I have no idea. Then there's the Sino-Spino, which is a combination between the Sinoceratops and a Spinosaurus. Then there's the Enkylodus, which is a combination between a Diplodocus and an Ankylosaurus. And finally, there's the Spinoraptor, which is a combination between a Spinosaurus and a Velociraptor. Okay, also, yes, there's a ton of hybrid dinosaurs in the Jurassic World mobile game, but like, I don't think any of these are remotely canon, or were even trying to stick to canon. I only wanted to go over the hybrids that are confirmed to be canon, or are semi-canon, like the ones from Jurassic World Evolution. The Human Dinosaur Hybrid Jurassic Park 4. The most well-known pitch for a 4th Jurassic Park film was the Human Dinosaur Hybrid pitch. However, while it's the most well-known pitch, it never actually left the pitching phase, and no scripts were ever produced, because upon seeing the concept drawings created by Carlos Huante in 2002, Universal shot down the pitch almost instantly. There's not much else known about this pitch, outside of the fact that one of these hybrids has a gun arm, which implies that they were being created by some kind of military organization. While an incredibly brief pitch, this was far from the last Jurassic Park 4 pitch that featured hybrid dinosaurs.
Jurassic Park will return in a moment on NBC.
Something big is coming to McDonald's. Something of such enormous proportions. It could only be called the Jurassic Park Extra Value Meal.
Okay, let's eat!
An enormously juicy triple cheeseburger with fries and a medium drink in one of 6 free Jurassic Park collector cups. The Jurassic Park Extra Value Meal. A dino-sized value for a dino-sized appetite.
Hey, where's mine?
What you want is what you get at McDonald's today.
All right.
Jurassic Park continues, starring Sam Neill and Laura Dern.
Jurassic World Survivor. Jurassic World Survivor is a cancelled Jurassic Park video game that would have tied in with Jurassic World. Originally leaked on Reddit in 2015, Survivor was going to be a third-person survival game with elements similar to H1Z1. The game would have had you play as Owen as you try and survive Jurassic World. The dinosaurs that we know were going to be in the game include the T-Rex, Suchomimus, Spinosaurus, Dilophosaurus, Apatosaurus, Ankylosaurus, Velociraptor, Pteranodon, Gallimimus, Triceratops, Baryonyx, and Stegosaurus. When the game's existence was leaked online, it was actually stated by artists working on the game that the project was still alive. It wasn't cancelled. Despite the game's developers, Cryptic Studios, closing down due to staff layoffs. But then, in October of 2016, Perfect World Entertainment, Cryptic Studios' parent company, registered the website JurassicWorldSurvivor.com, so the game was very much still alive, and screenshots of gameplay were leaked online in 2017, showing an earlier build of the game that played in first person. And after that, nothing. Since then, more leaked screenshots and animations have been found online, but the game has had no updates in almost a decade, so it's very obvious that the game was cancelled. Thanks to leaks, we know that splash damage of Transformers Reactivate infamy took over production on the game and changed the game to an open-world survival game set a few weeks after the events of Jurassic World, and you would no longer be playing as Owen, but instead a nameless, custom-created civilian who crash-landed on the island. There was also going to be Biosyn operatives that you would have to fight as well. As for the game's narrative, there wasn't much. You would find audio logs and notes, and that's pretty much it. And as of right now, that's pretty much all we know about Jurassic World Survivor. Baby T-Rex in JP3. This is a fan theory that's become pretty popular in the Jurassic Park fandom. The theory states that the T-Rex in Jurassic Park 3 is actually the baby T-Rex from the Lost World, grown up into a teenage Rex, which would explain why the Spinosaurus was able to kill it. A piece of evidence connecting the two is that the animatronic used for the bull T-Rex in JP3 was the same animatronic that portrayed the male T-Rex from the Lost World, the father of the baby T-Rex. I actually believed this theory as a kid, but in reality, it turns out that the two aren't actually the same, as their color schemes are completely different, and they're on completely different sides of Isla Sorna. Now, it has been argued that some animals change colors as they get older, and while true, there isn't any evidence of T-Rexes in the films doing this. In fact, the theory has flat out been debunked by Universal themselves, as in 2024, they released a family tree of all of the known T-Rexes in the franchise, and the bull T-Rex is shown to be different from the baby. Telltale's Jurassic Park. Released in November 2011, Telltale's Jurassic Park is a pretty interesting piece of Jurassic Park media, as at the time of its release, there was no question about whether or not it was canon to the main timeline, but as of the Jurassic World films, well, the waters got in a bit murky. Anyways, the game, like all Telltale games, is a point-and-click choose-your-own-adventure game. The game's plot is set during and shortly after the first film, with Jerry Harding being one of the game's main characters. Though he's looking a little bit different from his movie counterpart. The game is about him and a bunch of new characters trying to escape Jurassic Park, while also locating the shaving cream canister that Nedry dropped in the first film. The game also features 3 new species of prehistoric creatures that were apparently always present during the events of the first film, these being the Tylosaurus, the Herrerasaurus, which actually appear on a map in the film, and the Troodon, which are treated as the game's mystery, super scary dinosaur. These Troodons were actually ordered to be exterminated by John Hammond himself, which is why we never see them in any other piece of media. That, in this game, is set in a different canon. Like I said earlier, this game was originally canon, but the events of the game don't really match canon anymore, and there's even been people involved with the films that have said that this game should be taken as soft canon, meaning that maybe events similar to this game happened in the film's universe, or maybe these characters exist in the film's universe, but the actual game itself just isn't canon. This is further backed up by the release of Jurassic Park Survival, which has a very similar premise to the Telltale game, and is seemingly being considered a canon. Last thing that I'll mention is that the game has been delisted everywhere, meaning that the only way to play it is to buy a physical copy of it, which also means that the iOS ports of the game is pretty much lost, unless you already have it downloaded on an old iOS device.
Dr. Sargent.
I'm here. What's happening?
Forget it. There's nothing you can do anyway.
Are you sure? Tell me what's happening.
Signing off.
The SS Venture Hand Mystery. So in the Lost World of Jurassic Park, there's a mystery surrounding the ship the SS Venture, or more accurately, its crew. If you watch the film, you'll probably be confused as to how the crew was all killed, and that a severed hand was left in the boat's bridge. While there was a T-Rex on the ship, the T-Rex is far too big to be going around the corridors and stuff, so it couldn't have killed all of the crew. So there's a theory that a pack of raptors were also on the boat, and that we were going to see them, but they were scrapped from the film late in production, and that the hand on the boat's bridge is a remnant from this cut plot point. This is completely untrue, as there's nothing in the script that talks about raptors on the boat. People think this mainly because of this concept art, which is for a completely different scene. So since the T-Rex is the only dinosaur on the boat, it's clear that the T-Rex is somehow responsible for this. This has led to the theory that the T-Rex broke free from its cage, smashed its head through the bridge's back wall, grabbed the captain and ate him, resulting in the hand being left behind, and then accidentally hitting the button to close the cargo hold as it walked back into it. As for the rest of the crew, they simply jumped overboard at the sight of a T-Rex. This is really the only theory that makes any kind of sense. Owen is the turkey kid. This is a very popular theory that Owen is actually the kid from the beginning of Jurassic Park, who thought that raptors were just giant turkeys. The theory goes that Dr. Grant traumatized him so much that he went on to become a raptor tamer 20 years later. While a funny theory, there isn't really much linking the two characters, outside of them both having opinions on velociraptors. In fact, it's already been confirmed to be not true. The kid from Jurassic Park's name is Eddie, and Whit Hertford, the dude who played Eddie, has directly said that they're different characters. So yeah, Turkey Boy is not actually Owen. Are Blue, Beta, Bumpy, and Rexy dead? In Jurassic World Rebirth, it's stated that most dinosaurs across the globe died shortly after the events of Dominion, due to them not being able to survive in modern-day climates. Despite the ending of Dominion clearly showing they can, but whatever, I guess. The only area in which dinosaurs seem to continue to survive is the equator. This has led many people to speculate that Blue, Beta, Bumpy, Rexy, and I guess the Buck and Doe are all dead by the time of Jurassic World Rebirth. Let's go over each one by one. While I really like Blue, there's a pretty good chance that she and her kid, Beta, are dead, as they were living in the Sierra Nevada mountains. which is not exactly by the equator. Now sure, they could've, and probably did try to migrate, but I think it's unlikely that they would get to the equator before dying. Rexy, the buck, and the doe are in a bit of a strange situation. They were all last seen living in the Biosyn Sanctuary in Italy, which, while nowhere near the equator, is a sanctuary that's monitored by people who specialize in prehistoric creatures, so it's possible that the facility could keep them alive, but this isn't super likely, so there's a good chance that they're all dead. Especially Rexy, who was already pretty old in Dominion, so she probably died due to old age by the time of Rebirth. And as for Bumpy, well, she's also located in the Biosyn Sanctuary, but Jurassic World Chaos Theory ends with the characters going to break her out of the sanctuary, so if they do this, she could die, unless they relocate her to somewhere near the equator. The fate of Isla Sorna. So Isla Sorna is a pretty big location in the Jurassic Park franchise. I mean, it's the main setting for 2 out of the 7 films, so it's pretty important. Though after Jurassic Park 3, the island kinda just stopped being talked about, minus some non-canon games and novels. So what happened to the island during the events of the Jurassic World trilogy? All of the information I'm about to tell you comes from stuff like viral marketing material and games, so all of this info could and probably will be retconned in the future to some extent. Anyways, the Masrani Corporation would take dinosaurs from the island and bring them over to Isla Nublar in order to populate Jurassic World, though not all of Isla Sorna's prehistoric creatures were brought over. For example, a lot of the pteranodons from Isla Sorna were killed by InGen's security division, led by Vic Hoskins. Dinosaurs such as the Spinosaurus were taken by the company Mantah Corp in order to live, fight, and die on their own personal island, in order to create weaponized dinosaurs. Finally, Biosyn began taking dinosaurs from Isla Sorna sometime in the late 2010s, in order to bring them to their sanctuary in Italy. So basically, Isla Sorna became a place for companies to come and take dinosaurs from. Billy's scrapped death. So if you thought Billy's survival in Jurassic Park 3 was a bit strange and out of nowhere, there's a reason for that. Billy was originally going to die during the Pteranodon scene. You can even see his death in the film, as if you look closely at the scene where the Pteranodons are pecking at Billy, a large amount of blood can be seen pouring into the river. Billy only survived this attack thanks to the film's director, Joe Johnston, changing his mind at the last second. So a scene showing his survival was added. But how did he actually survive in-universe? Well, it can be assumed that the river he was in led to the ocean where the military picked him up. How he survived until then, I have no idea. Jurassic Park 2: The Chaos Continues. The Chaos Continues is a video game developed by Ocean Software and released in 1994 for the SNES and Game Boy. As the name suggests, it's a sequel to the film, but obviously it's set in its own canon. The game's plot is about Dodson and Biosyn attempting to capture all of the dinosaurs on Isla Nublar, and it's up to Dr. Grant and Michael Wolfskin to stop them. This game is pretty crazy, as Dr. Grant has to gun down soldiers and raptors, but only raptors. If you kill any non-carnivore, InGen's stock level will fall, and if that falls to 0, then it's game over. Side note, in this continuity, not only did InGen clone dinosaurs, they also cloned a whole bunch of giant purple wasps. The Spinosaurus roar is lost. In Jurassic World Evolution 2 and Camp Cretaceous, the Spinosaurus has a different roar than normal. This is because the original recording of the Spinosaurus's roar from Jurassic Park 3 was lost at some point in the 2000s. Now, you might be like, well, why don't they just take the roar from the film? And that's actually what they did for the first Evolution game, and select moments in Camp Cretaceous. However, you can easily tell that it's reused audio. Now, here's the thing. What I just said about the Spinosaurus roar being lost might not actually be true. You can find a ton of people talking about it online, on YouTube, Twitter, Reddit, random forum posts, etc., but nobody's been able to actually post a source to these claims. So it's just a rumor at this point. Funko Fusion. Released in September of 2024, Funko Fusion is an action game based on Funko Pops and crosses over a bunch of franchises like Five Nights at Freddy's, Scott Pilgrim, Battlestar Galactica, Team Fortress 2, Invincible, He-Man, The Walking Dead, Megan, Mega Man, Universal Monsters, John Carpenter's The Thing, and so much more. And one of these franchises is the Jurassic Park franchise. Funko Pop versions of Owen, Claire, Barry, Kayla, John Hammond, Ian Malcolm, and a Dilophosaurus are all playable, with Funko Pop versions of Dr. Grant, Ellie, Macy, Blue, Rexy, and a bunch of other dinos being NPCs. There's even a Jurassic World level that you can explore. Funko Pop versions of the Indominus Rex, Indoraptor, and Gigantosaurus are boss fights in the game. Other prehistoric creatures. Despite dinosaurs being the #1 focus in the Jurassic Park franchise, there's been other prehistoric creatures brought back to life. For example, in Camp Cretaceous, we see that saber-toothed cats, or Smilodons, have also been brought back alongside the dinosaurs. There's also the possibility that woolly mammoths are being cloned as well, as while we have yet to see them on screen, in Camp Cretaceous, Dr. Wu is revealed to be in possession of woolly mammoth bones. Dimetrodon appears in Jurassic World Dominion, Jurassic World Evolution 2, and several non-canon comics like Jurassic Park Redemption from 2010. And of course, there's the Mosasaurus from the Jurassic World films, the Pteranodons who appear in most pieces of Jurassic media, the Dimorphodons from Jurassic World, Camp Cretaceous, Chaos Theory, and Dominion, the Tylosaurus from the Telltale game, and the prehistoric locusts from Dominion and Chaos Theory, all of which aren't dinosaurs. There's also been a ton of prehistoric creatures added to the franchise via the mobile Jurassic Park and Jurassic World games, and Jurassic World Evolution 2. These include Megatherium, Lioplorodon, Megalodon, Titanoboa, Diprotodon, Dodokeris, Kalinkin, Prosoptodon, Hyenodon, Basilosaurus, Archelon, Dunkleosteus, Arctodus, and Elasmotherium. And in Jurassic World Alive, you can create dinosaur-mammal hybrids, including the Smilocephalosaurus. I don't like this. I don't like the idea of dinosaur-mammal hybrids. Original Lost World. So the version of the Lost World Jurassic Park that we got went through some major changes during development. One of the earlier drafts for the film had Ian Malcolm and Sarah Harding going to Isla Sorna together, along with Nick Van Owen and Dr. Judson. Oh, you know, the iconic character Dr. Judson? You don't remember the scene in Jurassic World: A Fallen Kingdom where Judson lights a compy on fire with a flamethrower while the other characters look on in horror? Jokes aside, Dr. Judson would have been a member of Ian Malcolm's team, and would have been the paleontologist in the group. This earlier draft of the film also didn't have the San Diego sequence. Instead, the final scene of the film would have been John Hammond's funeral, Roland would have also had a semi-redemption arc in the film, where he would save Ian Malcolm and Kelly from a velociraptor. There was also supposed to be a plot point about a pteranodon nesting area, which would have led to that deleted scene I talked about earlier. And finally, the stolen dino DNA in the Barbasol can from the first film would have also been a plot point in the film. But yeah, this version of the Lost World at Jurassic Park was pretty different, but some of its scrapped concepts would make it into Jurassic Park 3. Escape from Jurassic Park. Escape from Jurassic Park was a cancelled animated series from 1993. Around this time, every major film had a cartoon series released shortly after the film, and Jurassic Park wasn't going to be the exception, as an animated sequel series titled Escape from Jurassic Park was greenlit. The plot of the show would have had John Hammond just not learn anything from the end of the film and try again to finish Jurassic Park, while Biosyn would open up their own dinosaur-themed park called Dino World in Brazil, which wouldn't go very well, as all of the dinosaurs would escape into the jungle. Characters like Dr. Grant, Ellie, Tim, Lex, John Hammond, and Ian Malcolm would all be either main or supporting characters in the show, and there were plans for the first season to last 23 episodes. The cartoon was set to air during primetime, so it was being developed to cater to both audiences old and young. Though, even if it was a show just for little kids, it wouldn't be your standard kids show, as Universal wanted to make this show insanely high quality. They wanted to hire the best of the best working on the project, from the best writers to the best animators. Not only that, but they also wanted the show to be a mix between traditional and CG animation. So why didn't this cartoon get made? Steven Spielberg? Well, okay, I'm sure there were other reasons as well, but Spielberg was a big reason. Further development on the show required his approval, and Spielberg at the time had become really tired of the promotional campaign and merchandising for Jurassic Park. So he refused to watch the pitch trailer for the show created by William Stout. That, and he was also afraid the show might create inconsistencies when it came time to make Jurassic Park 2. And so, Escape from Jurassic Park was cancelled in 1994. Mantah Corp Island. Mantah Corp Island is one of the many secret islands in the Jurassic franchise. Only appearing in Camp Cretaceous, the island is owned by the company Mantah Corp, who do weird experiments on it. On the island, there's a giant facility surrounded by domes, and these domes feature artificially created environments such as a jungle, snowy tundra, swamp, redwood forest, and a desert. Similar to the giant dome covering Skull Island in the Monsterverse, the dome's panels are covered in screens that mimic a day and night cycle. So what's the purpose of these domes? Well, I already kind of mentioned it, but basically, the domes house dinosaurs that Mantah Corp want to turn into living weapons. They also wanted to test the dinosaurs' ability to survive in different climates, such as putting a Spinosaurus in the desert biome and putting some Cenospinos in the tundra biome. But you're probably thinking right now, well, even if Mantah Corp proves that the dinosaurs can survive in different environments and can fight, how can they be used as weapons? Especially giant theropods like T-Rex and Spinosaurus. Well, that's where the brain chips come in. Yes, many of the dinosaurs, especially the theropods, had brain chips put into, their brains, which would force them to be completely obedient to whoever was controlling them. This aspect of the island is probably the most controversial thing in the entire series, if not the entire franchise. While brain chips haven't returned after Camp Cretaceous, human-controlled theropod dinosaurs have continued to appear in the franchise, like the Atrociraptor Squad in Dominion or the Baryonyx from Chaos Theory. Spielberg's Jurassic Park 3. Despite not wanting to direct a third Jurassic film, Spielberg had plenty of ideas for another film. For example, he wanted Dr. Grant to be shown living on Isla Sorna because he was so obsessed with studying dinosaurs. He was also going to be a lot more lighthearted than his more serious appearances in the original film, JP3, and Dominion. Also, the San Diego sequence from The Lost World was an idea that Spielberg had for the third film, but he moved it to The Lost World as he really wanted to do that sequence. So you're probably wondering why Spielberg didn't want to direct a third Jurassic film. Well, it's for two reasons. First, he felt satisfied with just doing the first two films. And secondly, he told director Joe Johnston in the mid-1990s that if a third Jurassic film were to happen, he would make sure that Johnston was the director. So while Spielberg had ideas for a third film, he was never going to direct it. Brad and Brad X. One of the most controversial elements of Camp Cretaceous is the existence of the bio-robotic assistance droids, aka the Brads. Created by Mantah Corp, these dog-like robots were created to serve as the security force for Mantah Corp Island. Not only did they provide security, but they were also designed to keep the ecosystems of the island in balance. For example, if a dinosaur somehow broke into the wrong environment, the Brads would kill the dinosaur in order to assure that it didn't mess with the balance of the ecosystem. How do these little dog robots kill dinosaurs? Well, they shoot electricity out of their mouths. They also have some sort of tranquilizing gas that they can spit out to take down dinosaurs without killing them. Then there's the Brad X's, which are an upgraded, more intelligent version of the Brad, and they look a little odd. They can now stand on two legs and have a dinosaur-like face. Unlike the Brads, they don't shoot out electricity, but instead shoot plasma out of their mouths along with grenades. These robots are extremely controversial in the fanbase, because many people believe that they feel out of place in the Jurassic franchise. Personally, I don't really mind the normal Brads, but the Brad X's are a bit too much in my opinion. The same Brachiosaurus? In Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom, there's a scene where a Brachiosaurus is shown giving out a final roar as it's engulfed by volcanic ash, killing it. It's a sad scene, but fans decided that they wanted it to be even sadder, as they came up with the theory that this Brachiosaurus was the same Brachiosaurus from the beginning of the original film. For a little while, this was just a theory, but it was later confirmed by Fallen Kingdom's director, J.A. Bayona, that this theory was true. This is one of the rare times a Jurassic Park fan theory has been confirmed to be true. Third novel. So after the release of The Lost World of Jurassic Park, fans began to speculate whether or not there would be a third novel written by Michael Crichton, a novel that perhaps the third film would take influence from. So fans waited, and waited, and waited, and waited. No third Jurassic Park novel would ever be written by Michael Crichton. It's not like he quit writing, as he continued to write books, but he simply just didn't want to write dinosaur novels anymore. The closest he ever came to writing a third Jurassic Park novel was the book Dragon Teeth, released in May of 2017, but that book's not even related to Jurassic Park. It's a book about paleontology and the Bone Wars. It was also written in 1974, so it predates the entire Jurassic franchise. Camp Cretaceous Hidden Adventure. Released in November of 2022, Hidden Adventure is a special episode of Camp Cretaceous that's non-canon. It's non-canon because it's one of Netflix's interactive specials they produced. So you choose what happens to the characters in the special, and try to make sure they don't get killed. The Hidden Adventure is notable for a couple of reasons. The first is that it's the only appearance of the Tarbosaurus in a Jurassic movie or show. Luckily, its design was saved from being exclusive to this obscure bonus episode, as it was added into Jurassic World Evolution 2 via DLC. The second reason as to why the Hidden Adventure is notable is that it's lost media. Well, not really, but kinda. You can watch the entire episode and all of the decisions and death scenes, but you can't actually experience the episode the way you were intended to anymore, as Netflix removed the episode along with most of its other interactive specials in December of 2024. Oh, and also, Bill Nye voices a character in this. Just thought I'd mention that. Original casting. Just like every other film or show ever made, some actors just didn't make the cut when they auditioned for roles in Jurassic films. That, or they declined a role offered to them. Here's a list of some actors who either auditioned for roles, were offered roles, or were considered for roles, but for whatever reason, didn't end up getting the part. For Dr. Grant, Harrison Ford, Robin Williams, Kevin Costner, Kurt Russell, and William Hurt were considered for the role. For Ian Malcolm, Jim Carrey, Michael J. Fox, Michael Keaton, Johnny Depp, and Bruce Campbell were considered for the role. For Ellie Sattler, Robin Wright, Gwyneth Paltrow, Jodie Foster, Sigourney Weaver, Jamie Lee Curtis, and Helen Hunt were considered for the role. For John Hammond, Sean Connery, Marlon Brando, and Clint Eastwood were considered for the role. For Owen Grady, Josh Brolin and John Krasinski were considered for the role. For Muldoon, Jeffrey Jones, Bob Hoskins, and Brian Cox were considered for the role. For Ludlow, Gary Oldman was considered for the role. For Sarah Harding, Julia Roberts and Juliette Binoche were considered for the role. And finally, for Cooper, Steve Buscemi and Stellan Skarsgård were considered for the role. Jurassic Park Redemption. Jurassic Park Redemption is a 5-issue comic series that was released from June to November of 2010. The comic series follows Tim and Lex, who are now adults. Tim is trying to restart Jurassic Park with the help of Dr. Wu and Dodson in Texas, while Lex is the president of her own company, trying to keep people off of Isla Nublar and Isla Sorna. But since it's a Jurassic Park story, things don't go as planned, and the dinosaurs cloned by Dr. Wu break out of containment and start causing mayhem in Texas. This catches the attention of a bunch of legacy Jurassic characters, like Dr. Grant and Ellie, who are sent in to investigate the dinosaurs with the US military. Meanwhile, Dodson, who was looking after the dinosaurs and abusing them, decides to release even more dinosaurs into the wild and gets Dr. Wu killed. You see, Dodson is actually working for someone other than Tim, that being Peter Ludlow from the Lost World Jurassic Park. Yes, in this continuity, Ludlow survived his encounter with the T-Rexes at the end of the Lost World, and is now working with Dodson to destroy John Hammond's legacy. This doesn't work out though, and Ludlow and Dodson are both killed by the end of the story. Or maybe their plan actually works, because while they die, it's never actually stated in the story whether or not Tim's efforts to make a Jurassic Park in Texas are successful. So, for all we know, Hammond's legacy was truly destroyed. Anyways, this story is notable for one more thing. The ending of the story features a Gigantosaurus battling some velociraptors, which gets the attention of a mosasaur who kills the large theropod. Some have claimed that Jurassic World ripped this ending off, but I think it was just a coincidence. Camouflaged Carnotauruses. One of the most famous aspects of the Jurassic Park novel continuity is the fact that the Carnotauruses in the novels could camouflage with their environment. This, combined with the fact that they were nocturnal, made them practically invisible, and some of the most deadly animals on Isla Sorna. Although they did have one major weakness, and that's the fact that flashlights seem to somehow mess with the animal's camouflage ability, making it glitch out and revealing the theropods. If you're wondering if they could do this in the films, no they can't, at least from what's been shown in the films and shows. John Sayles' Jurassic Park 4 script. In 2004, John Sayles and William Monahan wrote a script for a fourth installment in the Jurassic franchise. This script followed the ending of Jurassic Park 3 directly, with the same group of pteranodons from the end of the film showing up at a baseball game on the mainland USA. And after that, more prehistoric creatures would begin to arrive on the mainland, so John Hammond would order a new character named Nick Harris to travel to Isla Nublar to find the can of shaving cream from the first film, in order for Hammond to create a dinosaur capable of hunting down and killing all of the other dinosaurs. And when Nick arrives on Isla Nublar, he goes through a gauntlet of hostile prehistoric creatures. For example, he's almost killed by velociraptors hiding in trapdoors that they had created, and is almost killed by a Kronosaurus that destroys his seaplane. Eventually, he's captured by a private security force for a Swiss organization that now owns Isla Nublar. They bring him to a medieval-style castle in the Alps, where he's forced to join the organization in order to survive. There, he meets human-dog velociraptor hybrids that can camouflage with their surroundings. Nick then leads the dinosaur-dog-human hybrids and other dinosaurs, such as Ankylosauruses and Dilophosaurus, on military missions to take down drug lords and terrorists. After a few missions, the raptor hybrids decide that they don't want to do this anymore and turn on the PMC group, killing everyone but Nick and his love interest. It's unknown why this script was rejected, but if I had to guess, it was probably because of how strange it was.
Jurassic Park will return in a moment on NBC.
Something has survived, and it's at Burger King. 4 collectible watches from the Lost World Jurassic Park. When you buy any tasty Burger King value meal, get a killer Lost World watch for only $1.99. They can only be sighted at Burger King. Collect all 4, just $1.99 with any value meal. Before time runs out.
Jurassic Park continues, starring Sam Neill and Laura Dern.
Did Echo survive? So shortly after the release of Jurassic World, there was a popular fan theory that the velociraptor Echo had actually survived alongside Blue. This is because, out of the 3 raptors who die in the film, she got the least brutal death, with her just being thrown into a building, something that Blue was shown to survive. Meanwhile, Charlie gets blown up by a rocket launcher, and Delta was turned into dinosaur barbecue. This theory was popular up until Fallen Kingdom's release, where it was debunked, as the Dinosaur Protection Group states that she died. Interestingly though, it seems that Echo was originally intended to survive the film, as concept art for the final fight shows Blue and another raptor watching Rexy battle the Indominus Rex. Nick Van Owen vanishes. In the Lost World of Jurassic Park, Nick Van Owen just kind of vanishes from the film right before the final act. This is pretty weird because he's a main character in the film, and he just, disappears without any fanfare. Some people even claim that Steven Spielberg forgot about the character, which would explain why he doesn't show up in the rest of the film. Although, this is a really silly theory. There are, luckily, a few theories that make a lot more sense. For example, Nick Van Owen was looking over Kelly. Think about it. Out of the main good guy cast, Nick Van Owen and Kelly are the only two who aren't present at all during the final act, outside of Kelly showing up very briefly at the end, so Ian Malcolm probably asked Van Owen to watch over her for a few. Another popular theory is that he just went home. I mean, it's why Roland doesn't appear in the finale. His job was done, so he went home. Well, that, and he was sad that his friend died. Segasaurus Rex. Alright, here's a really quick funny one. For the Sega Genesis Jurassic Park game, the game's intro has a T-Rex saying Sega. There's not much else for me to say here, it's just really funny. Owen is one of the soldiers at the end of JP3. In yet another Owen is actually secretly in the original trilogy theory, this theory suggests that Owen was one of the soldiers who showed up at the end of Jurassic Park 3 to save Dr. Grant and the Kirbys. The only evidence for this theory is that Owen was a member of the US Navy prior to the events of Jurassic World, and since it's directly mentioned that both the Navy and the Marines showed up to save Grant, it is possible that Owen was one of the soldiers. Unlike the Turkey Kid theory, there actually isn't anything debunking this theory, though personally, I don't think it's very likely that Owen was one of the soldiers, as you would think that he would mention to Grant in Dominion that they had actually met before. Scrapped dinosaurs. So the Jurassic Park franchise is no stranger to dinosaurs and other prehistoric creatures that, just for whatever reason, didn't make the cut. Here's most of the ones that we know about. For Jurassic Park, the Apatosaurus was originally supposed to be the first dinosaur shown in the film, but was replaced by the Brachiosaurus. Several Maiasauras were planned to appear in the film, and would have been the dinosaurs to interact with Grant and the kids after the T-Rex breakout. And finally, the sick Triceratops in the film was originally supposed to be a Stegosaurus. For the Lost World of Jurassic Park, originally there was going to be an original dinosaur in the film known as the Superraptor. Nothing is known about the Superraptor other than the fact that it was scrapped because Spielberg said that it felt like it came straight out of a horror movie. It's also been speculated that the Alpha Raptor from Trespasser was based on this cut creature. Then there's Geosternbergia. I don't think I said that right. While not a dinosaur, this pterosaur species was going to appear in the nesting sequence that I mentioned earlier, although technically I guess they do appear in the film, as they make a brief cameo on a piece of paper. Although, funny enough, nowadays this pterosaur isn't actually considered its own species anymore, and is considered to just be a species of pteranodon, so I guess technically it wasn't actually scrapped. For Jurassic Park 3, a Carnotaurus was replaced by the Ceratosaurus late into production. The Carnotaurus version of the Ceratosaurus scene is actually in the film's novelization. During the scene where Grant and crew explore the InGen lab, they were originally supposed to find a Mosasaurus swimming around a breeding tank. Oranosaurus was supposed to appear in the Hadrosaur herd, and finally, as mentioned before, Baryonyx was supposed to be the film's main antagonist instead of the Spinosaurus. For Jurassic World, Edmontosaurus and Diplodocus were planned to appear in the film as parts of the herd the gyrospheres go through. For Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, Ionosaurus, Camarasaurus, and Gigantosaurus all appear in concept art for the volcano eruption sequence. Though these three supposedly scrapped dinosaurs were actually confirmed by Colin Trevorrow to just be placeholder dinosaurs, and were never intended to be in the film. Despite this, I thought I'd mention them here. Dilophosaurus was also planned to make a cameo in the film on board the boat, but this scene was cut because it was decided that the scene served no point in the story. A second Indoraptor was also planned to appear in the film at some point, this one being white. It would be shown being killed by its sibling, which is why the hybrid was cut from the film, as it was decided that this was far too similar to the Indominus Rex's origin. A dead Teratophonius was supposed to appear in the film. Its neck would be twisted, which would hint at a Spinosaurus being responsible for killing it. In fact, a Spinosaurus was supposed to appear in the film and would be killed by Rexy. As for Jurassic World Dominion, Spinosaurus was originally supposed to show up and help Rexy battle the Gigantosaurus at the end of the film. There was even an idea thrown around that the final fight would be a three-way fight between the three apex predators. While not a dinosaur, a plesiosaur was supposed to appear during the Mantah sequence, with Owen encountering it during a boat chase scene that was cut from the film. Suchomimus and Deinonychus were also supposed to appear in the Mantah sequence, but were replaced by the Allosaurus and Atrociraptor. The Friends Jurassic Park 3 script. In 1999, Craig Rosenberg was brought on by Universal to write a script for Jurassic Park 3. This script was extremely different from the Jurassic Park 3 that we ended up getting, as it focused entirely on 6 college students becoming stranded on Isla Sorna, with Dr. Grant somehow getting involved in the students' dilemma. And that's all we know about the script. It was rejected by Joe Johnston, as while he said that the script wasn't poorly written, it felt like it was a bad episode of Friends, which is why the script is known as the Friends script. The 2022 Olympics. In promotion for Jurassic World Dominion, several ads were created to air alongside the 2022 Winter Olympics in Beijing. These commercials showed Olympic athletes training when suddenly Blue, Rexy, a herd of Parasaurolophus, and an Apatosaurus show up, to which the athletes are understandably a bit starstruck. These commercials are kinda weird. Not just because it's Jurassic Park and the Olympics crossing over, but you gotta wonder what's going on in some of these ads. Like the Parasaurolophus one, is this dude just practicing his ice skating in the middle of the mountains? The Spinosaurus mate theory. So a lot of people are confused as to how the Spinosaurus was able to survive having a plane smash into it in Jurassic Park 3. Not only does it not seem all that bothered by it, but it also goes on to kill a T-Rex within an hour of the crash. This has led people to theorize that the Spinosaurus actually didn't survive getting hit by the plane, and that the Spinosaurus in the rest of the film is the mate of the Spinosaurus that was killed by the plane. Basically, the Spinosaurus is hunting down Dr. Grant, the Kirbys, and the mercenaries because it wants revenge for killing its mate. Now, there is literally no evidence for this theory. At least in canon material, an early version of Jurassic Park 3 actually had a baby Spinosaurus being killed by Cooper shortly after they arrive on the island, and that's why the Spinosaurus was chasing the humans. It wanted revenge for the murder of its baby, but this was cut, so it isn't the canon reason as to why it was chasing them. Anyways, because there's little evidence of a second Spinosaurus on Isla Sorna, It's very unlikely that this mate theory is true. Also, it's been mentioned in interviews that the plane grazed the Spinosaurus's tail, which is how it was able to survive. The dinosaurs are dying. In the novel continuity, the dinosaurs on Isla Sorna and Nublar are all dying. As revealed in the Lost World novel, it turns out that InGen was feeding the carnivores bad sheep and goat meat, which carried the disease Scrappy, which means that every carnivore on Isla Sorna and Nublar is dying due to being poisoned by this bad meat. Not only that, but InGen also used Isla Sorna as a dumping ground for the dead bodies of failed clones. And this meat was rotted, so the carnivores were also eating rotted meat. So they're extra dead. As for the herbivores, while at first you would think that they would be okay, it turns out that they won't be, due to contamination from the rotting flesh and Scrappy. So throughout both novels, every dinosaur you see is slowly dying, though they don't go extinct due to these factors. Instead, Isla Nublar is firebombed into oblivion, and Isla Sorna is hit by a famine, which wipes out the dinosaurs. Rick Jaffa and Amanda Silver's Jurassic Park 4 script. In 2012, Rick Jaffa and Amanda Silver were hired to write the script for what would become Jurassic World. And while their script wasn't used, it was extremely influential. For example, their script had the main dinosaur threat be a new species of dinosaur. Unlike the film, where the Indominus Rex was a hybrid created by man, the new dinosaur in this script was a never-before-discovered species of dinosaur known as the Malusaurus, though it would later be called the Diabolus Rex. Other similar ideas to what we got in Jurassic World include a raptor trainer character who uses a pack of raptors to help take down the new big bad dinosaur, pteranodons escaping their enclosure, resulting in a massive brawl between them and park security, a scene where the big bad dinosaur takes down an ankylosaur, the existence of the gyrospheres, called the gyro balls in this script, and the villain of the film, the raptor trainer, would have wanted to use the velociraptors for military use. The film's plot followed a paleontologist and her two kids traveling to the newly opened Jurassic Park in order to investigate this new dinosaur, since the bones of the creature she helped unearth were stolen by a mysterious organization, and she believes that the park's new dinosaur was created from these bones. The park would have also had several different aquatic animals, including a plesiosaur and an ichthyosaur. And finally, the theme park in this film would have been called Jurassic Park, not Jurassic World, which is why this film was going to be titled Jurassic Park 4. For whatever reason, this script was rejected, but many of its ideas were reused in the final film, which is why Rick Jaffa and Amanda Silver are credited as writers on the film, despite them not actually writing the final draft. This almost didn't happen though, as Colin Trevorrow really didn't want them to be credited for creating many of the film's plot elements. This is why the Super Bowl trailer for the film doesn't list them as the film's writers. Crediting the pair was a very late decision that the Writers Guild of America forced Trevorrow to do. Jurassic Park Dinosaur Battles. Developed by Vivendi Universal and released in September of 2002, Jurassic Park Dinosaur Battles is a very strange Jurassic Park video game. The game has you playing as a secret agent controlling dinosaurs using technology created by a mad InGen scientist, in an effort to take her down and rescue some campers captured by her. I'll play you the opening cutscene. It tells the game's story better than I ever could.
Okay, Junior Explorers, Cabo Blanco Nature Reserve dead ahead. Prepare yourselves for the trip of a lifetime.
Once again, we do the work while Harrison Manley explores the back of his eyelids.
Friday. Today's experiment's the most promising to date. Dinosaur cloning down to under 10 seconds. Even better, subjects are responding to the DinoVox computerized calls. Today I commanded Raptor 9 to slash Raptor 2 and flee. He obeyed. My pets, my fantastic, invincible pet, to turn my genius to Project Primo.
Instead of fully controlling your dinosaurs, you just tell them what to do. There's also a bunch of skills you can unlock for your dinosaurs, and you can customize their movesets. Kinda like Pokemon. Back to the game's story, this InGen scientist, named Irene Quartz, is responsible for not just cloning dinosaurs, but also cloning people in an attempt to create superhumans. These guys are called Primos, and they're cloned versions of members of the ancient civilization that once lived on the island centuries ago. They're also all voiced by D. Bradley Baker. Wait a second, clones voiced by D. Bradley Baker? Anyways, at the end of the game, they rebel against their creator, and Irene is killed by the dinosaurs that she once controlled.
Take Dr. Cort's boat and get everyone off the island.
Yes. We will rip this place apart. Starting with the main computer. Destroy InGen! We're free!
You stopped Cort's cold. You were pretty amazing.
Although I might have done things a bit differently.
Aaron.
All right. Great job.
Now nature can run its course without interference.
Right. And we won't have to worry about Dr. Quartz ever again.
The game was quickly forgotten to time, mostly because this game was actually a remake of another forgotten Jurassic Park game called Scan Command Jurassic Park, released the previous year in 2001. I say remake, but in reality, Dinosaur Battles isn't a remake. It's, well, a reformatting. Let me explain. Scan Command required you to find codes on products in real life to get skills and upgrades for your dinosaurs in-game. When that system failed to be profitable, they just released the game without the scan elements, so it's essentially a re-release. This game also has a bunch of cut content from it, like a bunch of dinosaurs, an entire minigame, and loads of dinosaur skins. Speaking of cut content, scrapped Operation Genesis content. Like with all games, Operation Genesis has its fair share of scrapped content. For example, baby dinosaurs were planned to be in the game, but they had to be scrapped midway through production because of scheduling issues. This also resulted in the planned dinosaur petting zoo building having to be scrapped as well. There was also a hotel, a hunting platform, and a dinosaur vet station that were all planned to be in the game at some point, but were all scrapped. There were also plans for a forest fire disaster to occasionally happen in the game. There were also going to be various aerial and aquatic prehistoric creatures that you could have in your park. There was also originally going to be 40 dinosaurs in the game, but 15 of them had to be scrapped. Thankfully, we know 13 of these 15 scrapped dinosaurs. These include Iguanodon, Diplodocus, Baryonyx, Apatosaurus, Deinonychus, Werchosaurus, Panoplosaurus, Maiasaura, Ornithomimus, Alioramus, Tenatosaurus, Yongchianosaurus, and the Silosaurus. What attacked the boat? So in the beginning of Jurassic Park 3, the boat that Eric is parasailing on is attacked, and everybody on board is killed. This happens off-screen, so we don't actually see how they died, just that they're all gone, and the ship is pretty torn up. This has led to various theories over the years as to what creature did this, as the film doesn't answer this question. Some believe that it was the Spinosaurus. I mean, it's the main antagonist of the film, and it can swim. Though, the boat isn't that close to the coastline, so it would be a little weird for the Spinosaurus to be there. The Mosasaurus is another theory. The people who believe this theory will cite the fact that the Mosasaur was supposed to be in the film, but it was going to be trapped in a breeding tank, so it couldn't have done this. And besides, it was cut from the film. The Pteranodons are the last major theory, though this theory falls apart when you remember that the Pteranodons on this side of the island are still locked up in the birdcage. Also, why would the Pteranodons attack the people on the boat, but not the two dudes in the air? Well, funny enough, in an earlier draft of Jurassic Park 3, this was the answer. However, when the writers realized that this would cause a plot hole, it was decided to scrap them. But since the scene wasn't completely scrapped, I guess in the final film, the implication is that the Pteranodons did it. How did they escape the birdcage? I have no idea. Jurassic Park Dangerous Games. Releasing from September 2011 to January of 2012, Jurassic Park Dangerous Games is a 5-issue comic miniseries written by Greg and Eric Baer. It tells the story of a CIA agent named Daniel Espinosa being sent on a mission to Isla Nublar. His mission is to take down a drug lord named Gabriel Cazares, who purchased Isla Nublar from the Costa Rican government and has turned the island into his very own fortress. Pretty weird, right? Well, it gets weirder. There's a woman on the island named Frances White, who is a former InGen employee and worked at Jurassic Park. She became stranded on the island and for nearly 20 years lived in the jungles of Isla Nublar with her velociraptor family. Yes, her velociraptor family. She found out that velociraptors view the first creature they see as their mother, and while working as an animal behavior researcher for InGen, she was the first thing that 7 feathered velociraptors saw, and so became their mother. She was actually hated by Peter Ludlow, and he attempted to kill her because he disagreed with her opinions on raising the dinosaurs. Pretty weird, right? Well, it somehow gets even weirder. There's a borderline kaiju-sized ankylosaur on the island who's used by the cartel as their pet. Dangerous Games is a very strange Jurassic comic, and is very controversial in the fanbase, due to, well, being so strange. Jurassic Park Adventures. Jurassic Park Adventures is a trilogy of non-canon novels that tell the story of what happened to Dr. Grant and the Kirbys after the events of Jurassic Park 3. Well, the second and third installments are. The first installment, Survivor, tells the story of Eric Kirby living alone on Isla Sorna before his meeting with Grant in JP3. Survivor is also an in-universe novel. After Jurassic Park 3, Eric Kirby wrote the book after telling his story to the United Nations, which resulted in him becoming a celebrity. Books 2 and 3, Prey and Flyers, on the other hand, are set after the events of JP3, and aren't in-universe books. These books feature some pretty bizarre stuff, like Dr. Grant being forced to live on Isla Sorna by the United Nations in order to protect dinosaurs, and the Pteranodons from the end of JP3 end up attacking Universal Studios while Eric and Dr. Grant are vacationing there with Amanda Kirby. Yeah, Universal was really subtle about advertising their parks with that book. There's also Iggy, no, not the dog. He's Eric's baby iguanodon best friend, who he befriended while stuck on Isla Sorna, and Iggy is probably dead, as he's not in the film. These books are obviously meant for little kids, and were never intended to be taken as serious canon. Jurassic Park Warpath. Created by Black Ops Entertainment for the original PlayStation and released in November of 1999, Jurassic Park Warpath is the franchise's only attempt at entering the fighting game scene. Yeah, you heard right, a Jurassic Park fighting game. The game features all of your standard fighting game modes, like arcade, versus, practice, survival, etc. There's even a museum option that allows players to learn about the dinosaurs, so there's a tiny bit of educational value to the game. There's 14 different playable dinosaurs in the game, ranging from dinosaurs from the first two films, like T-Rex, Triceratops, and Pachycephalosaurus, dinosaurs that would later make their debut in future films, like the Ankylosaurus, Spinosaurus, and Gigantosaurus, and a bunch of dinosaurs that have yet to appear in the films, such as Suchomimus, Albertosaurus, and Megaraptor. The game also has plenty of stages based on scenes from the first two films, and even a stage based on Universal Studios. Once again, very subtle advertising. Devils in the Desert. Releasing from January of 2011 to April of the same year, Jurassic Park Devils in the Desert is a 4-issue comic miniseries written by John Brine. This is a very unique Jurassic Park comic series, as it features not a single dinosaur in the story, only pteranodons. It's also a bit of a neo-western, and features no returning characters from any of the films. The story is very simple. The pteranodons from the end of Jurassic Park 3 have made their way to mainland USA, and are now terrorizing a small western town by attacking their cattle and just straight up killing people at times. So the town comes together and works with the FBI and some mercenaries hired by InGen in order to fight off the pteranodon menace. The most well-known thing from the comic is probably the ending, in which the last of the pteranodons battles a polar bear at a zoo. The Spinosaurus is a hybrid. For a while, there is a very popular theory that the Spinosaurus, featured in Jurassic Park 3, was the first ever hybrid dinosaur. The main 3 pieces of evidence for this theory are: 1. The Spinosaurus wasn't on InGen's list, 2. The Spinosaurus is hyper-aggressive, and 3. Nowadays, we know that the Spinosaurus didn't look like that. That last piece of evidence actually does have some kind of backing, as the Spinosaurus skeleton in Jurassic World was based on what paleontologists thought the Spinosaurus looked like in the early to mid-2010s, so it looks different than how the JP3 Spino does. Although, in my opinion, this is just a continuity error. Now, if this theory was true, this would be a retcon, as the Spinosaurus in JP3 was actually somewhat accurate to what paleontologists thought it looked like in the early 2000s. So the crew behind the film were just going with what the science said. They weren't trying to make a hybrid dinosaur. Also, in regards to the aggressive parts of the theory, this is just a result of the film's writing. They wanted Spinosaurus to be like a slasher villain, so that's why it acts the way it does. It wasn't a result of it being a hybrid, but the thing that kills this theory once and for all is the Scorpius Rex in Camp Cretaceous, as it's mentioned that it was the first hybrid ever created. So no, the Spinosaurus isn't a hybrid. Jurassic World Aftermath. Developed by Coatsink Software and released in December 2020, Jurassic World Aftermath is a survival horror Jurassic game that flew under the radar, despite the demand for such a game. This is probably because it's a VR game that was released exclusively for the Oculus Quest, and, well, calling it a horror game is a bit of a stretch. You can get killed by dinos, but it's more of a stealth game if anything. There's no combats in the game, so you gotta stay clear of the various dinosaurs in your way by using distractions to lure them away from you. Well, I say various dinosaurs, but it's really just velociraptors, and the occasional Dilophosaur and a T-Rex. Taking place between the events of Jurassic World and Fallen Kingdom, you play as a dude named Sam, who is sent to Isla Nublar to obtain Blue's genome. While looking for Blue's genome, he has to hide from a pack of velociraptors who are hunting him, which is kinda weird, because it's established in other media that Blue is supposed to be the only velociraptor alive at this point. In September of 2021, a DLC sequel of sorts called Jurassic World Aftermath Part 2 was released. This DLC was originally supposed to be part of the original game, but due to issues caused by the pandemic, the game had to be split up into two parts. Though both parts would be released together on the Nintendo Switch in November of 2022, without any VR elements, which begs the question, why not port the non-VR version of the game to PlayStation, Xbox, and Steam? Anyways, the game received pretty average reviews, and is really only notable for being a modern-day Jurassic game that's not a park simulator or Lego game. Also, Jeff Goldblum reprises his role as Ian Malcolm in the game. Dude will just say yes to anything Jurassic Park related. The 2015 Jurassic Park arcade game. Released in March of 2015, Jurassic Park Arcade is, well, kinda a Jurassic Park arcade game. Developed by Raw Thrills, this game is an official Jurassic Park game. However, it's nothing like the films. You play as InGen security members being sent to Isla Nublar to capture various dinosaurs, as the volcano on Isla Nublar is going to erupt. Yes, this game did the plots of Fallen Kingdom 3 years earlier. The game is notable for having dinosaurs that just don't really look like they belong in the Jurassic franchise. Like, this T-Rex straight up looks demonic. The game has you battling the dinosaurs with machine guns, freeze rays, electricity guns, and laser guns, which are all said to be non-lethal. Oh, and you're not just fighting dinosaurs and pteranodons, but also giant spiders and giant ticks. Oh, and you also fight brachiosauruses. Yeah, there's just randomly some brachiosauruses in the game that attack you and try to eat your teammate. There's not much else for me to say. It's a crazy rail shooter that takes heavy inspiration from early Jurassic Park rail shooters and toys from the 1990s. Jurassic Park Chaos Effect. Jurassic Park Chaos Effect was a toy line released in June of 1998 that featured a bunch of hybrid dinosaurs and action figures covered in crazy gadgets and equipment. A lot of the ideas for this toy line came from a cancelled cartoon series from around the same time, being developed by DreamWorks Animation. The plot of this cartoon was that scientists had created a bunch of dinosaur hybrids, and, well, then Jurassic Park stuff happens. The dinosaurs get loose, and they gotta be stopped. In order to defeat these crazy hybrid dinosaurs and a giant tentacle T-Rex monster called Doomsday Rex, Ian Malcolm and friends would have to suit up in power armor and equip themselves with high-tech weapons. They would even work with a Terminator-style android and use a mech suit ripped straight out of Aliens. Roland was also going to return in this cartoon and work with Ian Malcolm, Eddie Carr, and the rest of their friends. Oh yeah, Eddie Carr was going to be in this show. How did he survive being ripped in half by 2 T-Rexes and then eaten by both of them? I have no idea, but he apparently got better. This cartoon was cancelled due to internal debates at DreamWorks Animation on just how weird the show was going to be. While it was cancelled, ideas from the cartoon would be reused by the Chaos Effect toy line. The original Jurassic World. In the early 2010s, a Jurassic Park video game titled Jurassic World was being pitched to Universal by Seamus Blackley, who had been hired to create a pitch for a Jurassic Park video game. The game would have followed Billy from Jurassic Park 3 traveling to Isla Sorna with the US military as their guide. The military is there to exterminate all of the dinosaurs, and once Billy discovers this, he bails from the team and fights 2 soldiers near some velociraptor eggs. He defeats the soldiers, but is then confronted by a velociraptor named Blue, who believes that he protected her eggs. So the raptor decides to make Billy an honorary velociraptor. The game would then have Billy working with his newfound raptor family against the US military, eventually even befriending 2 T-Rexes. This would lead to a full-on military versus dinosaur war on Isla Sorna. Basically, think Avatar, except instead of the main character banking a hot blue alien and battling humanity, he befriends a blue velociraptor and battles humanity. Now, this game didn't get far into production, though elements from it were used in the film Jurassic World. Not only the title, but also Owen. While the Raptor Trainer aspect came from the Jaffa and Silver script, Owen's design seems to have been pulled directly from Billy's design in the game, along with the lead velociraptor being named Blue. Spielberg himself actually contacted Seamus Blackley and asked for permission to use elements from this pitch in the film, to which Seamus agreed. LEGO Jurassic World DLC. While it's not uncommon for LEGO games to have DLC, many people don't know that LEGO Jurassic World has 3 different character packs. While other LEGO DLCs are usually based on a movie, TV show, or just like a general theme grouping the characters together, LEGO Jurassic World says, no thanks. There's 3 packs: Jurassic World DLC Pack and Jurassic Park Trilogy DLC Packs 1 and 2. And Well, the characters they choose are interesting, to say the least. We got Owen Grady in his t-shirt, a hot dog vendor, Paul Kirby in his outfit for when he showed up at Dr. Grant's dig site, a Jurassic Park helicopter pilot, Eric Kirby with a ripped shirt, Tim and Lex from the beginning of the Lost World Jurassic Park, a dino handler ready for the beach, and Karen and Scott Mitchell from Jurassic World. So you can now replay your own parents' divorce in LEGO Jurassic World. There's also tourist Emma and Sam, who I think are just unnamed NPCs in the game, but now they're playable. Now, you might be wondering, well, is there anything else? Well, actually, yes. There's 4 DLC vehicles: the Jurassic World Responder, the Jurassic World Shuttle Bus, an Animal Control Vehicle, and the San Diego Cruiser. Honestly, these DLC packs just seem like a waste of money to me. Jurassic Park Raptor. Jurassic Park Raptor is a 10-issue comic series released from November of 1993 to October of 1994. Well, I say 10 issues, but in reality, Raptor is the first part of a trilogy of comics that makes up these 10 issues. Raptor, Raptor Attack, and Raptor Hijack. Written by Steve Englehart, these comics are a sequel to the original film, and feature Dr. Grant and Ellie getting involved in another incident with dinosaurs. This time, they're working with the US military to round up the remaining dinosaurs on Isla Nublar. There's also a mercenary on the island named George, who's an old friend of Muldoon's. He's hired by Biosyn to transport velociraptors to the mainland. Knowing that Grant and Ellie would try to stop him, George acts first and captures them, but while trying to transport his prisoners and the velociraptors to the mainland, the raptors break free and kill George, causing the plane they're on to crash in Colombia, which results in Grant and Ellie getting captured by somebody else, a drug lord named Rafael Santos, who forces the pair to train the velociraptors so he can have them as his pets. They're eventually able to escape, but so are the velociraptors. So Grant and Ellie team up with Ian Malcolm and Muldoon in order to find and capture the velociraptors. Yes, Muldoon. In this continuity, Muldoon was revealed to have survived the events of the film, and while the rest of the team wants to capture the raptors, Muldoon just wants to kill them. But this search for the raptors is put on hold when, I kid you not, Ellie is captured by a random gorilla. This gorilla then battles some of the velociraptors and is killed. Then some Biosyn agents arrive and try to kill the crew. Eventually, the story comes to an end with Grant and crew being like, you know what, this is stupid. The jungle will probably kill the raptors, let's go home. Yeah, they just give up, and that's how the story ends. Should also mention that the story also features some people who believe the velociraptors are gods, and Grant slowly starts to agree with them. Also, the first issue of the series features a fight between a T-Rex and a tank.
Jurassic Park will return in a moment on NBC.
What was that?
Sounded like a Tyrannosaurus.
I don't think so. Sounds bigger.
Jurassic Park 3 has hit Burger King, and to satisfy the biggest appetites, any Whopper value meal will get upsized to king-size fries and a king-size drink for free. Plus, you could win a family trip for 4 to Islands of Adventure at Universal Orlando Resort. Jurassic Park 3 at Burger King. You better hurry before it's extinct.
Jurassic Park continues, starring Sam Neill and Laura Dern.
Cancelled IDW Comics. In July 2016, it was announced by IDW that several Jurassic World comics would be released in 2017. Jurassic fans were pretty hyped up, as the last comic was released in 2012, so they had gone 4 years without a single comic. And since that announcement, they've gone a decade without a single comic. Yeah, strangely, no Jurassic World comic was ever released in 2017, and it wasn't even like IDW announced the comics to be cancelled, they just didn't release them. IDW just kinda pretends as if they never made the announcement. It's really weird. Toro in Fallen Kingdom. So Toro is a Carnotaurus featured in Camp Cretaceous, and was the main antagonist of the first season, though he reappears in the show's second and fifth seasons. There's a theory that Toro is actually in Fallen Kingdom as well, and is the Carnotaurus that appears at the end of the film and helps Rexy rip Eli Mills in half. People say this because this Carnotaurus seems to be uniquely scarred, and when the footage is lit up, he does look quite similar to Toro. Seeing as Toro survives the events of the show, it seems that this could be the case. Except for the fact that Toro is shown to be living on Manticore Island at the end of the show, so he wouldn't be one of the dinosaurs captured and brought to the mainland in Fallen Kingdom. It's also mentioned in Chaos Theory that all of the dinosaurs on Manticore Island, including Toro, were taken off of the island, but this happened after Fallen Kingdom, so no, Toro isn't the Carnotaurus featured in Fallen Kingdom. The T-Rex animatronic almost killed someone. Roberta was the name of the animatronic that played Rexy in the original Jurassic Park, and Roberta almost killed someone. During production, mechanical designer Alan Scott entered the mouth of Roberta in order to fix up some stuff inside of her, but just because Roberta wasn't a real T-Rex doesn't mean that this was safe. With the amount of hydraulics inside of Roberta, if the animatronic began to move while somebody was inside of her, there would be a very good chance that whoever was inside of her would be crushed to death. And that's exactly what almost happened. While inside of Roberta, the studio experienced a power outage, and so Roberta's jaws began to close. Alan would have either died or been seriously injured if not for his quick thinking, as he tucked himself into a ball as soon as he heard the jaws closing. He was then rescued from Roberta's jaws a few moments later as the animatronic lowered its head to the floor. Motion comics. In late 2019, Jurassic Park comic fans finally got something similar to a Jurassic Park comic. A 4-part series of motion comics. These include A Rising Tide, which gives us some information about the mosasaur at the beach scene from Fallen Kingdom, Dinosaur Crossing, which tells the story of a man being caught up in the middle of a fight between a Triceratops and an Ankylosaur, The Roar That Rules It All, which gives us some backstory to the T-Rex at the zoo scene from Fallen Kingdom. This story also reveals that the lion isn't actually killed. And finally, Dinosaur Territory, Proceed with Caution. This serves as a sequel to the Battle at Big Rock short film, and also reveals that the Allosaurus returned to the campsite in the morning and kills a reporter. Only 4 of these shorts were ever produced, despite there still being a demand for anything fleshing out the time between Fallen Kingdom and Dominion. Site C. Most Lost World Jurassic Park toys had the logo Site B on them, in order to let people know that this film took place on a different island. This would continue with Jurassic Park 3 a few years later, where on some of the merchandise there was a logo saying Site C, Surf for Survival. This has confused a lot of fans over the years, as there is no Site C. There was a description of Site C that was given on some merch, but it doesn't really tell us anything, only that it's a tropical place. The leading theory for a while was that this was scrapped material from Jurassic Park 3 that accidentally made its way to shelves. Then, in 2015, in Jurassic World Evolution, Ian Malcolm refers to Isla Moreta as Site C. But Evolution 1 is soft canon, meaning that lore bits from it should be taken with a grain of salt. And besides, there's no way that this is what Site C was referring to back then. So what was it referring to? Well, in recent years, two theories have come out, both of which branch off from the scrapped content theory. The theories being that 1. Jurassic Park 3 was supposed to take place on Isla Nublar, or a new third island. Further evidence for this is that Isla Sorna in JP3 looks radically different than it does in the Lost World. Instead of redwood forests, now we had jungles and swamps, much like Isla Nublar. Now, in-universe, it's since been retconned that this is the case because JP3 takes place on the opposite side of the island, which has a different environment. But the out-of-universe explanation is that Joe Johnston wanted to move away from what was done in the Lost World. So basically, Too Long Didn't Read, Site C may have been a scrapped island, or was the original name for the Isla Nublar resort, and because this was scrapped last second, it still appeared on some toys. The Fox version of The Lost World. Airing in November of 1998, The Lost World Jurassic Park aired on Fox, and for some reason had several deleted scenes added back into the film, the first being the Ludlow board meeting scene, and the second being the Roland and AJ scene. To this day, there's never been an official explanation as to why this version of the film aired. My only two guesses are that either 1. These two scenes were cut very late into production, and so the copy that the film Fox received had them, or 2. Due to commercial breaks, a few minutes of time had to be added to the film. So these scenes were added back into the film in order to make sure that the movie filled up the time slot. David Banks's fate. So David Banks can hardly be considered a character. He's heard briefly in Episode 1, and appears as a corpse in Episode 2 of Telltale's Jurassic Park. But that wasn't always going to be the case. There were plans for Banks to make a full-on appearance in Episode 2, where we would see his death. However, his death scene had to be cut from the game because apparently it would have pushed the game's rating to an M rating. To this day, we know nothing else about his cut death scene. Jurassic World Ancient Futures. Ancient Futures is the original sequel to Jurassic World. This version of the film was thought up by Colin Trevorrow, and would have had the dinosaurs being sent off to England, and because that's a pretty big travel via boat, a good chunk, if not like 50 to 60% of the film, would be set on the boat. At least, that's what some people say. There's actually been no official word on whether or not what I'm about to tell you is true. These are all just rumors, although I personally believe them to be true. For instance, Benjamin Lockwood was British, and his mansion was very clearly inspired by old British mansions, which would imply that this part of the film was originally going to take place in the UK. Anyways, other rumors state that Ian Malcolm was going to have a much larger role in the film, and would have been on the ship transporting the dinosaurs, and he would even try to sabotage the boat in order to prevent the dinosaurs from being taken to the UK. There are also rumors that Rexy would have joined up with a group of Tyrannosaurs, which may have served as inspiration for the ending for Dominion, and Blue was supposed to join a new pack of Velociraptors. Keep in mind though, these are all rumors, though we do know that Ancient Futures was the original working title for the film. That part is 100% confirmed. The Evolution of Claire. Released in June of 2018 and written by Tess Sharp, The Evolution of Claire is a prequel novel to the Jurassic World trilogy that tells not just Claire's backstory, but pretty much her entire history, from her years as a university student all the way to her taking a job at Isla Nublar. There's even some parts of the book that take place after the events of Jurassic World, and reveal that Claire suffers from some sort of PTSD. The novel also reveals a few interesting pieces of lore, like how Claire originally wanted to get into politics, after it took her 6 months to rescue a neglected dog from its owner, due to some laws, so she wanted to become a politician in order to change these laws. Rexy's name is actually confirmed to be Rexy in-universe, and it's revealed that in order to tease the existence of Jurassic World, in the early 2000s, the Masrani Corporation sent out care packages with holograms saying, "They're coming, May 30th, 2005, to journalists, social media influencers, actors, pop stars, and college professors." I didn't know there were social media influencers in the early 2000s, but alright. This book has also been confirmed to be canon to the films by Colin Trevorrow, although it wouldn't shock me if in the future this book was retconned. Carnosaur. Released in May of 1993 and directed by Adam Simon, Carnosaur tells the story of a mad scientist trying to wipe out humanity and replace them with dinosaurs. The film's plot has basically nothing to do with Jurassic Park, outside of cloning dinosaurs, and the movie is actually based on a book also called Carnosaur, written by Harry Adam Knight. Well, very loosely based on that book. Despite it being so different to Jurassic Park, the film is considered by many to be a mockbuster, a film made to capitalize off of the success of another more mainstream film. So why is Carnosaur considered a mockbuster? Well, the film began production in 1992 and was released prior to Jurassic Park in order to get ahead of the dinosaur craze that was soon to come, and to take advantage of Jurassic Park's marketing campaign in hopes that people would see this film instead of Jurassic Park. When it was released in May of 1993, a month before Jurassic Park, it was... well, it wasn't received all that well. While Carnosaur wasn't a huge critical hit, it did make its money back, and then some. On a budget of $850,000, it made $1.8 million, and so the Carnosaur series was born. In February of 1995, Carnosaur 2 was released, and is pretty similar to the film Aliens, but instead of aliens, they're raptors. Unlike the previous film, Carnosaur 2 and the rest of the series going forward would be released straight to DVD, though Carnosaur 2 was originally intended to be released in theaters. In November of 1996, Carnosaur 3 Primal Species was released, and for about 5 years, that was the end of the series. That was until November of 2001, when Raptor came out, which is very loosely Carnosaur 4, It doesn't really have much to do with the original film, it just uses a ton of Carnosaur stock footage. And finally, in September of 2006, the final installment in the Carnosaur series was released, called the Eden Formula, also known as Tyrannosaurus Rex, which is honestly one of the greatest titles of all time. This film was, once again, largely made up of stock footage, and all of the new scenes are extremely cheap looking. I mean, look at this awesome T-Rex. Go watch Dino Diego's excellent retrospective on the series for more information. Michael Crichton's Jurassic Park script. So originally, Michael Crichton was signed on to write the film adaptation of his book. But despite what the opening credits to Jurassic Park may tell you, this version of the film was scrapped. His script was far more faithful to the original novel than the final film. This original script has never been leaked online, but a revised version of the script has. And this version of the script features a new death scene for John Hammond, where he's killed by velociraptors. There was some other stuff changed as well, but for the most part, it would have been very faithful, or as faithful as you can be when you gotta trim a novel down to a 2-hour film, as Michael Crichton himself has said that his script had only about 20% of the novel's content. Probably the most interesting, or most funny difference, is that in this script, during the T-Rex breakout scene, Rexy was supposed to poop on the car. Amanda Kirby made the Indominus Rex. So this is a really weird fan theory of sorts, that Amanda Kirby from Jurassic Park 3 is responsible for the Indominus Rex being created. This is because she fails to close the Pteranodon cage, which causes the Pteranodons to escape, which then leads to Vic Hoskins leading a team to Isla Sorna to wipe out the JP3 Pteranodons. This led to Vic gaining InGen and Masrani's trust, which led to him being put in charge of their security, which led to him working with Dr. Wu to create the Indominus Rex. Basically, a domino effect was created by Amanda Kirby goofing up. This is one of those fan theories that, while technically true, I don't actually care about, at all. Technically, you could say, Nedry is responsible for the Indominus Rex, because if he didn't sabotage Jurassic Park, maybe it could have worked out, and Masrani wouldn't have bought InGen and ordered for the Indominus Rex to be created. But who cares? I'm not trying to be mean to the person who came up with this theory, but this is essentially saying, because of the events of the first 3 films, the events of the 4th film happen. It's yeah, that's how that works. It's a nothing theory. Manga. Released in 1993 and written by Kazumi Sakamoto, Jurassic Park the Manga is a retelling of the first Jurassic Park film in a manga format. While in adaptation, there are some pretty notable differences between the film and the manga. For example, the manga begins with Lex and Tim arriving on Isla Nublar instead of the raptor sequence with Muldoon. In fact, Tim and Lex are basically the protagonists of this manga, so all of the stuff at the dig site and the scene where Grant sees the Brachiosaurus are cut. Nedry encounters an entire pack of Dilophosaurs instead of just the one. In fact, he purposely rammed his car into one of the Dilophosaurs, which caused them to attack him. The last major difference is that Rexy attempts to kill Dr. Grant and the rest of the characters after killing the Velociraptors, instead of her just doing her little victory pose. While there was an official Thai translation of the manga, there was never an official English translation. William Monahan's Jurassic Park 4. In 2002, William Monahan was brought on board to write the script for Jurassic Park 4, which had a release date in 2005. Sadly, we don't know much about this script. The few things that we do know include the fact that the film wouldn't have taken place on either Isla Sorna or Isla Nublar, and that Ian Malcolm and John Hammond were heavily rumored to appear in the script. Several directors were attached to this script at some point, such as Alex Proyas and Breck Eisner, but all of them eventually left the project for one reason or another, and so in response to this, Monahan left the project in 2004. Jurassic World Live. Jurassic World Live Tour is a stage show premiering in September of 2019 that tells the story of a woman named Kate Walker as she studies a Troodon named Jenny, but during the events of Jurassic World, InGen steps in and takes Jenny to a base in Chile. The plot jumps forward in time to after the events of the film, and Kate, along with her friends, break Jenny out and bring her back to Isla Nublar. They then have to battle some mercenaries hired by InGen, and also have to survive against the various dinosaurs also on the island. After defeating the mercenaries, Kate and her friends escape Isla Nublar and leave Jenny behind, where I assume she dies in the volcano eruption in Fallen Kingdom. The show ran in the United States from September of 2019 to April of 2020. It probably would have gone on for much longer, but then the pandemic hit, and that pretty much killed the live tour. Probably the most noteworthy thing about the show is that Rexy and Blue team up once again and battle some dudes with flamethrowers. Forza Horizon 5. In June 2024, Universal partnered with the game Forza Horizon 5 and released a DLC for the game that allowed players to drive 5 different cars from Universal films. Well, it's really just 3 cars, because the DeLorean from Back to the Future Parts 1, 2, and 3 are all counted as different cars. Anyways, one of these cars was the Jeep Wrangler from the original Jurassic Park. The Jeep does have some customization options, but they're limited compared to other vehicles in the game. Funny enough, there was actually a dinosaur event in the game 2 years prior to this collab. Maisie Lockwood Adventures. Jurassic World Maisie Lockwood Adventures is a short-lived book series starring Maisie Lockwood. Written by Tess Sharp, these books were aimed at a younger audience, and were set between the events of Fallen Kingdom and Dominion. Considered soft canon, these books reveal what life was like for Owen, Claire, and Maisie between the films. For example, it's revealed that the 3 of them were living with each other in a van while traveling across the United States, while trying to find Blue. They also dealt with various dinosaur-related hijinks during their travels, like battling poachers who are trying to capture Blue, and dealing with an Allosaurus who's causing a bit of chaos. It's also revealed that the 3 of them went under the name the Anderson family in order to avoid being discovered. The first book was released in June of 2022, and the second was released in September of the same year. A third book was in some sort of development, but was cancelled for unknown reasons. Hop-On promotion. In promotion for Jurassic Park 3's home release, Universal made a deal with the cell phone company Hop-On to produce, quote, the world's first disposable cell phone, which would be offered once you bought the DVD. Out of the 5,000 cell phones produced, only about 1,000 of them were actually redeemed. But out of these 1,000 cell phones, 0 actually made it to the customers, as the promotion was cancelled because the phone's handsets couldn't be finished on time. But don't worry, the 1,000 customers instead received a $30 check and a free DVD. there was a video produced that explains the promotion, but it's kind of odd, because in the video, a Hop-On executive tells you to not throw away these disposable cell phones, because they'll become collector's items. So, you know, the first disposable cell phone you shouldn't dispose of. Lost World website. In 1997, Universal created a website for the Lost World Jurassic Park that was secretly an in-universe website. At first, the website just seems to be a trivia and behind-the-scenes hub for the first two films. But if you click on the button that says "To the Lost World," you're transported into a point-and-click Jurassic Park adventure where you can investigate John Hammond's desk and travel to InGen's website, where you can then read about the rules InGen employees must follow. Other things on the website include information on the dinosaurs that were cloned, and, well, you could also go through InGen employees' personal emails. This website was up and available to explore until 2020, meaning that it was up and operational for 23 years. You don't see many promotional websites up that long. Thankfully, the Wayback Machine was able to archive the website, or at least most of it. The Halo controversy. In July of 2020, 2 different skins for the Warthog in Halo Combat Evolved were added to the game Halo the Master Chief Collection. These skins were designed after the iconic Jeeps from the first film, the Jeep Wrangler and the Tour Guide Jeep. But they weren't just like straight up them, they were Halo-fied versions, even featuring their own Saint-Hubert Park logo, and their description even came with fun references to the films. But then, in one of the lamest moves ever done by Microsoft, or Universal, or whoever's responsible, in December of 2020, these 2 skins were changed to look less like the iconic Jurassic Jeeps, with the tour guide one getting a complete makeover. What happened behind the scenes has never been revealed, but it's safe to say that either Universal got mad at Microsoft, or Microsoft got worried that Universal might get mad, so they had them changed to avoid potential problems. Malia Scotch Marmot's Jurassic Park script. After Michael Crichton's Jurassic Park script was rejected, Malia Scotch Marmot was brought on board to rewrite the film in 1991. This script was interesting to say the least. It drops both the compy opening from the novel and the raptor opening from the film we got, in favor of Amber being looked at via a microscope. The film also has a completely different ending, where Muldoon lives and escapes the island with Grant, Ellie, and the kids, while John Hammond walks off into the wilderness, refusing to abandon the park, only for him to then collapse and drown in a puddle as a mosquito drinks his blood. Also, the T-Rex tries to attack the helicopter as it's taking off. Other changes include there not being any dinosaurs in the film until the tour scene. The raft scene from the novel was included, but instead of a T-Rex chasing after them, Grant and the kids would instead have to deal with the rapids. Instead of stealing dinosaur DNA, Nedry would be stealing dinosaur eggs, and would actually be successful in smuggling them out of the lab and onto a boat. Ian Malcolm doesn't exist in this script, and instead, all of his personality traits were given to Dr. Grant, and his storyline was given to Gennaro, the lawyer. Probably the strangest part of this script is the fact that it was going to be revealed that every dinosaur on the island was a juvenile that was given growth hormones to look like adults. This is because the cloning process messed with their ability to age into adults, so all of the dinosaurs would die young. And since Jurassic Park was going to open soon, Hammond had Dr. Wu make the dinosaurs look like adults while he tried to figure out how to fix this problem with the cloning. It's never been revealed as to why this script was rejected, but if I had to guess, it's probably because of how weird it was. Jurassic World miniature game. In June 2019, a Jurassic World-themed miniature tabletop board game was thrown onto Kickstarter by Exod Studio and Chimera Projects. Jurassic fans were pretty hyped and began to pledge money to the project, resulting in 318,298 euros, or $356,197 being raised. Everything seemed great. It was funded, and pretty soon everybody would be able to play it. Except there was a bit of a problem. It never came out. To this day, the project has never been officially cancelled, but in my opinion, it doesn't seem like this game will ever get released. In 2021, it was revealed that Chimera Projects had left the project in July of 2020, leaving Exod Studio as the one now responsible for creating the game. But the last update from the team was in July of 2022. They've gone completely radio silent, which has led to many people calling them scammers. However, I don't think that's true, and I don't think this project was intended to be a scam, as they've uploaded photos of them working on the game. If they were just scammers, then they wouldn't have spent money to create these miniatures. I, like many others, am of the opinion that they did fully intend to make the game. However, they ran out of funds, and seeing as their contract with Universal ended in 2023, I don't think they can even legally make the game now. Perhaps the pandemic also messed with their ability to produce and ship the game, and seeing as their socials have been dead for years, and if you Google them, it says that their office is permanently closed, I don't think this game is happening. Now, that being said, they should have come out and announced that it was being cancelled, instead of essentially going into hiding. But yeah, I don't think these guys are scammers. Instead, I think that they were just a new company that took on a job far too big for them, and because they used all of the funds, they couldn't refund people. In fact, I don't think Kickstarter even lets you do refunds, which is a really stupid system. Still an awful situation for those that pledged money to this. Fazoli's. Fazoli's is a fast food chain in the United States that specializes in Italian food. In 2003, they partnered with Universal to release toys as part of their kids' meal called Jurassic Bones, Jurassic Park Institute. These toys were eggs that, if opened, would reveal dinosaur bones that you would put together, and also came with a card that gave you information about the dinosaur, along with a link to JurassicParkInstitute.com, an educational website that gave you more information about the dinosaurs. There was also various games and puzzles that you could play. Thankfully, most of the website has been archived on the Wayback Machine. Return to Jurassic Park. Releasing from April of 1995 to February of 1996, Return to Jurassic Park is the sequel series to the Jurassic Park Raptor trilogy. This comic was written by several authors, including Steve Englehart and Tom and Mary Bierbaum. It tells the story of John Hammond hiring Dr. Grant, Ellie, Muldoon, Ian Malcolm, and the ever-iconic character Edgar Prather to return to Isla Nublar to research the Green Flame. What's the Green Flame? Well, it's a giant, mysterious green flame that is never actually explained. It was going to be explained, but, well, I'll get to that in a second. While investigating, the team comes into contact with a bunch of different foes, like a T-Rex, biosyn agents, and mercenaries disguised as US soldiers. Also, that Edgar Prather dude murders a Biosyn agent because he thinks that she knows something about the Green Flame. Dude's a bit of an oddball. Starting with issue 5, the comic jumps back in time and tells the story of two InGen employees named Abby and Derek, who end up having to face off against a mad scientist named Dr. Gustavus, who wants to create hyper-intelligent dinosaurs. They're able to escape his wrath and later help out the US military investigate Isla Nublar, though during this operation, Abby is framed for taking photos of the dinosaurs, something that they're not legally allowed to do. So the pair have to find evidence proving her innocence. The final issue of the story takes place prior to the events of the film, and it tells the story of Muldoon and Nedry having to fix up the park after a power outage causes chaos. If you're wondering what happened to the Green Flame, well, me too. It's never mentioned in the story again, and because the series was cancelled after 9 issues, an explanation for this mysterious Green Flame was never given. While the series was cancelled, we do know a few ideas that were planned to be in future issues. These include Lex and Tim having to deal with compies in California after the pair smuggle home some dinosaur eggs. Dr. Grant, Ellie, Tim, and Lex would get captured by a right-wing paramilitary group, and John Hammond would discover that the US military was doing experiments on Isla Nublar, and so goes into hiding so the government doesn't assassinate him. Side note, you gotta love how John Hammond has a sci-fi submarine in this continuity. Jurassic Park Project Evolution. In 2002, as part of Universal's yearly Halloween Horror Nights tradition at their theme parks, it was decided that this year they would have a Jurassic Park-themed area called Jurassic Park Extinction. And in this spooky little Jurassic zone, there was a haunted house called Project Evolution that reused assets created for the attraction Triceratops Discovery Trail. The backstory behind the haunted house is that you're traveling through the remnants of a mad scientist's lab. This mad scientist, Dr. Burden, was working on human-dinosaur hybrids, and actually created quite a few of them. And, well, they weren't exactly friendly. For instance, there was Dilopho Man, a hybrid between a Dilophosaur and a human, Pterodactyl, who is a Pteranodon human hybrid, Dino Man, who's a Triceratops human hybrid, and Grebnidu, a hybrid that wasn't mixed with human DNA. Instead, it's a combination between a whole bunch of aquatic life, like sea snakes, octopi, anglerfish, and more. While these guys were all created for the attraction's lore, only the Grebnidu and Dilopho Man were actually at the attraction. The other two were simply just masks that I don't think actually got used in the attraction. To make up for this, guests would also have to run from Jurassic Park 3 Velociraptors. Here's hoping that the Grebnidu appears in Jurassic World Evolution 3. Jurassic Park The Ride Online Adventure. Jurassic Park The Ride Online Adventure is a Flash promotional game created by Universal to promote Jurassic Park The Ride, and it's rather infamous for being pretty scary for a promotional Flash game aimed at kids. The game has you walking around corridors in almost complete silence with no music, all while knowing there's velociraptors lurking around trying to kill you. The game's plot has you playing as the park manager when a disgruntled employee sabotages the park and releases a velociraptor, which results in everybody but you abandoning the building, or dying. The game has at least 7 different endings, including tricking the velociraptor into getting eaten by a T-Rex, and locking the raptor in a pressure chamber and slowly suffocating it to death. In the game's files, there's also an image of what looks like the disgruntled employee hooked up to a meat hook in a freezer. I don't think this actually made it into the final game due to the gore, but it's crazy that this was developed for the game. Unfortunately, you can't actually play this game. There are archived versions of it online that you can download, but they're gonna be filled to the brim with viruses and malware. Also, the archived version is unbeatable due to the Raptor's AI being broken. Here's a few genuinely creepy moments from the game. Just a heads up though, the T-Rex one is a jump scare of sorts.
Help me.
Trespasser Secret Ending. During the level Summit in Jurassic Park Trespasser, if you instantly turn around when starting the level and turn on the Bones cheat code, you'll see an invisible walkway. If you follow it, you'll be teleported to an abandoned outpost at the top of a mountain, where John Hammond will then read out the poem Ozymandias, and then the game will end. It's actually kinda haunting in a way, especially since you can find a dead body on the mountain, which kinda gives off the vibe that you weren't supposed to find this.
From an antique land, who said, "Two vast and trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert. Near them, on the sand, half sunk a shattered visage lies, whose frown and wrinkled lip and sneer of cold command tell that its sculptor well those passions read which yet survive, stamped on these lifeless things, the hand that mocked them and the heart that fed." And on the pedestal these words appear: "My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair. Nothing beside remains. Round the decay of that colossal wreck, boundless and bare, the lone and level sands stretch far away."
And that'll be it, ladies, gentlemen, and NBs out there. That was the Jurassic Park Iceberg Remastered. So how did you guys like the video? Did you guys think this was an improvement from the original? Because it was. I mean, I know everything's subjective and all that, but like, I genuinely cannot see how you would think the original is better. Besides, like, I don't know, maybe you like that was your first Iceberg video or something. You have like nostalgia for it or something. I don't know. But yeah, no, this is the way better version. But hope you guys enjoyed that one. I want to leave you guys off with a question, a really important question, and that is, what's your favorite dinosaur? If you got up to this point in the video, you know, the outro, let me know in the comments your favorite dinosaur. Mine is probably a Triceratops. I mean, obviously, you know, T-Rex is T-Rex, but, like, I don't know. I also love the Spinosaurus. Ever since I saw it in Jurassic Park 3 as a kid, I've just always loved it. I know, obviously, it doesn't look like that. Well, it didn't look like that in real life, but, I don't know. I've always loved the Spinosaurus. It's just cool. And also, finally, I'd like to, I can't believe I'm going to say this, I'd like to thank my members. Yes, I have YouTube members now. It's crazy. For $5 a month, you can get your name at the end of the video. I mean, you've been seeing their names this entire time. You can get your name at the end of the video, and I'll read them out at the end. And for $7 a month, you can get this as well, and you can also get early access to these videos. And so, I'd like to give an insane thank you to Nathan Trench, Maurice Deceased, Paste, Digital Medic, and Stephen X Femto. I hope I said all your names correctly. I'm sorry if I didn't. Correct me in the comments for future. And again, if you want to join the membership, you can. No pressure or anything like that. Obviously, times are tough. But yeah, I've rambled on enough. Have a good one, everyone. Stay safe and all that. And I will see you guys in the next one. Let's hope Jurassic World Rebirth is good.